As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome to Crunch Time Sports with Jeff and Lukas until Booner gets here in about 13 minutes. But for now, it's me and Lukas. We got a packed show for you guys today. Lots to get to. We got the Carlton Davis talk. But you know what, Carlton Davis, he's been playing well. We'll talk about his expiring contract, whether or not the Lions should extend him. We'll also talk about the NFC Playoff Picture because we have an updated graphic of what that looks like. We'll get in some Lions-Bills, the Lions out, so we now can look at whether or not the Lions are favored in that matchup. Boone will be here, like I said, in about 12 minutes. But, Klotzy, you know what just dropped today? The official video of you getting the Block M in your head.
And it's still there. It's still there. Wait,
Yeah, it's on all socials. It's on our YouTube, our Twitter, Facebook, pretty much everything at this point. Longer versions on Twitter, but the real version's on YouTube. Hey, a lot of respect from the community. You know,
Dude,
a lot of respect for
and
Clark.
it's a bet I had to own up to. I kind of ducked out of last year's one of wearing a Michigan jersey every Saturday for the Ohio State game. Like, I just wasn't doing that. I'm sorry. Like, that just wasn't happening. I had to root for Michigan. Like, that wasn't happening. So I was like, okay, this one, the hair, my hair grows kind of fast. I needed a haircut anyway. Spencer watches the show. Shout out. Did a great job on the hair. He didn't actually fuck me up or anything. Like, he did a good job. So I appreciated that. But yeah, I just had to do it. The worst part is though, it's so if you don't know, I work at a fucking tire shop. Okay. So I'm pulling cars in and out and I'm walking to customers, giving them their car back. And they're looking at me weird. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, what'd you do to your hair? And I just keep forgetting about it now. And every time I got to keep explaining, I made this bet that Ohio State would beat Michigan. And people just now, I now just sound stupid explaining the haircut. So shout out to Spence, though. Honestly, I hope, because Ohio State's either going to get blown out or they're going to win blown out round one, or they're going to win the national championship. And I just really hope they get blown. Either way, I'm obviously not going to be mad if they win the Natty, but it just won't feel like a full national championship. Dude, you shouldn't even be in that spot. As an Ohio State fan, I've seen enough. Give Alabama the nod over Ohio State at this point. Yeah. Ryan Day better be canned, and that'll be the light at the end of the tunnel of this Michigan-Ohio State game this year.
Yeah, I saw this, ball don't lie. This is what Ryan Day does to people. I mean, it's brutal. It really is. I mean, look at this. We have the video on our Twitter page, which you guys can go check out, and it was posted. But I mean, look at the look at the ending of this. You guys can check out the full video there. But just this man just walked. I mean, you can tell there's just a lot of, you know what,
shitty day, cold as fuck outside.
Sorry, Klotz.
Look at this.
Oh my God!
Happy fucking Ryan Day.
And he was hungry too.
Yeah, well, I was starving. I think because I didn't eat anything before I went up to you guys. So I was starving. I was just sitting in there getting hungry, and it's when you just start getting mad, and you just I can feel this thing being cut in the side of my head. You guys start getting the colored pencils out, coloring my hair blue and yellow. Cute, right? Real cute.
Yeah.
No. Good times, though. Good for the content.
Yeah, it was great for content. I mean, it was great. Shout out Spencer. Shout out Joey's, man. You guys can check out the full video on our Twitter. It's on Facebook as well. And the reels on our YouTube. So you can go watch it. Kind of a shortened version. But yeah.
Before we kind of get into anything, too.
Yeah, go ahead.
We got enemy. We got enemies. They're trying to go behind
Charles.
enemy territory, sneak in. Charles, great to have you on the show. Keep talking whatever you on the trash, but the Eagles, I would not feel confident after Bryce Young almost cut you guys up there. I said it yesterday. It's like with Philadelphia, and we'll probably get into more later on the show too. There's that cycle where it's the Eagles, they look great for a 4 to 5 week span. Then it's what the fuck's going on in Philly? After that, they get it back together, 4 to 5 week span. Great. But after that, what the fuck's happening in Philly. It's a cycle there. So Charles, great to have you in the show right now, man. But I don't get I saw videos of like Eagles fans walking out the game. They're like, we need a new quarterback. And I'm not saying that Philly needs to get rid of Jalen Hurts, but there's definitely tougher times going on in Philly than in Detroit, even with these injuries.
Yeah, I mean, I saw today we posted, by the way, for those who didn't see the comment, it was Eagles fan Charles saying, imagine, talking when your team has 0 Super Bowls, whatever the comment is. And we posted a video today, which you guys can go watch. We discussed the Eagles, and I mentioned they played the Titans. I misspoke on that. But my point was, and the Eagles fan quickly commented, it was like, this idiot, we didn't play the Titans. Like, he didn't mention or, add to everything else I discussed, which is basically the point of that, me talking about those teams, like the Panthers, like the Jags they played, is that they play down to their competition. Like, to me, that's a red flag, a giant red flag. Like, if I was an Eagles fan, I'd be hiding right now. I'd be chilling. I wouldn't be saying much. I'd just be like, all right, let's focus on this game coming up, because this Steelers team, I know they don't have George Pickens, but that's good. It's funny. They have both games. They have the Eagles, Steelers, and Lions, Bills at 4:00. Like, to me, that's a crime. Like, those games should be prime time. I don't know, maybe or flex to one of them at least. Yeah. I don't know what prime time is on Sunday. It's not nowhere close to what these two games.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me look. I'll tell you in 2 seconds.
That to me, like, at least the Lions, Bills for sure should have been prime time. But even Eagles, Steelers, one of those things. I mean, they were like, no, it's chilling. Which, like, for us, I like going at 4 because then our post game.
Well, they got so there's no. Hold on. The Sunday night game is Green Bay and Seattle. Fine. And then Monday night game, Chicago, Minnesota. And then they have a doubleheader with Vegas and Atlanta.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Vegas, Atlanta is a shit fest. Yeah. I wouldn't even pay to get tickets.
No, that's terrible.
Hurts returned home to Minnesota last week.
Well, I hate it. I'm going to have to watch 2 games actually, I can't because we'll be live. So I won't even watch the Eagles-Steelers game. I won't even be able to because we'll be watching the Lions game. But, man, I would love to watch that game. I mean, that to me, the Steelers could easily sneak up on the Eagles. So, hey, you know what the Lions will be wearing, though, which I am excited about? That is their black, the black unis. Motor City Muscle. The black uniforms are coming out on Sunday, which I am excited for. I love this uniform. They've only wore it, I think, twice this year. Maybe not even twice.
I think only once.
You're actually you're right about that. But I am excited. They come out when it matters against the Bills. Like, these are the funeral outfits. Like, these are like the death of the Bills hype, the death of the Josh Allen MVP case, whatever you want to call it. But I am I wish. I mean, there's a lot of tweets that people were saying they should wear blue pants with these.
Oh my God.
Blue pants with the black unis. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those tweets too. Get the helmet with the pants. Yeah, I don't touch it. I like it. I like it the way it is. It's a badass outfit. Probably one of the coolest unis in the league right now. No doubt.
They wore it against Seattle. There was that narrative around Seattle. Seattle would come in numerous times into Ford Field, and they're beating that ass. They were. So what they do? They threw on the All Blacks, and I'd have to look around the league a little bit more, but Kirby Joseph probably had the interception of the year that I've seen so far. The way he high pointed the ball practically with one hand, bringing it down to help seal the game towards the end. So what's the saying, Jeff? The Coach Prime says, you look good, you feel good. You feel good, you play good. You play good. What do, Jeff?
They pay good. That's how that
Come
works.
On now. Come on now.
It's one of those, the sayings they write themselves. I mean, it makes so much sense. I'm with you. Well, if you're wearing the black unis, it's going to be some problems. And I'm pretty sure when they played the Seahawks in the black unis, and Jared Goff caught a fucking touchdown. So, like, anything
he didn't have an incompletion in that game, if you remember. He was 18 for 18. I believe that's right. I know he went. He hold on. Let me fact check this. I have a little Jamie moment real quick, but let me look.
Jamie
Goff went 18 for 18, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yep.
Black unis. You know what they do? It's maybe the aura.
Amon-Ra also threw for a touchdown in those uniforms.
You know what that means? That offense exploded against the Seahawks in the black unis. They're going to need this offense to explode this weekend. Like, I checked the over. We'll get to that later in the second hour. We'll get into the official line, which I will tell you guys later in the second hour, unless you just want to check it out. But if not, we'll tell you the line. We'll tell you the over-under. I like it. I'll just say that. I like it. I think this game will be offense. It'll be a lot of offense this game, I think, for sure. Mm-hmm. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, he went on his podcast, and I wanted to bring this up. I thought this would be a fun conversation. And They were asked in the YouTube comments if they could pick any NFL player to add to the Lions or Saints, because EQ answered as well. Who would you add? The narrative lives on. Here's Amon-Ra St. Brown's answer. Let's take a listen.
Add to the Lions, who would you? And the same for EQ on the Saints. So go first.
Ooh, any player that I can add. It would probably have to be Max Crosby. I feel like him, Z, the edge rushers we got, Aiden would be crazy. Like at that point, I feel like you don't even need your DBs have to cover for like 3 seconds, and that's that. Because one of those are getting to the quarterback, one of those are getting a sack, a pressure, whatever it is. So I would say Max Crosby at this point in time. I mean, there's so many good players in this league, but I feel like he went to Eastern Michigan. It just feels like it feels right.
Hey, the narrative.
Hey, bring Max home.
Narrative lives on. The narrative lives on. The Max Crosby narrative. Now, if to answer that question, if you could add any player in the NFL to the Lions right now, who would you add? For me, I'm gonna go. Let's go something different than Max Crosby. Is that fair?
Okay.
Let's say because it'd be like if we just Max Crosby. Obviously, that's the obvious one, and Amon-Ra said it. I'm thinking. You know what I really did? I was thinking about this. There's two guys I was deciding between. I wonder if I get you here. There's a player that it's a little different than probably the obvious. Like the obvious to me would be, just grab an edge, right? I like Patrick Surtain.
You fuck.
Patrick Surtain. I want it, and it has nothing to do with Carlton. Or it has nothing to do with Teron, but just to have another elite corner would be chef's kiss. If I could add an elite corner right now, because they're going to get Aiden and Zadarius next season. You know what I mean? Go get like an elite corner. I almost said Sauce, but Sauce has been a little up and down this year. I wouldn't mind Sauce actually either, but just an elite corner. That's who I would go with. Just to sprinkle on top of the secondary. You got the best safety duo. You got Aiden. You got Zadarius, you got Aleem, you got DJ Reader, Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes next year. Then you got Patrick. Come on. Go ahead. I didn't know who you were going to pick. I didn't know who you were going to pick.
I had a whole presentation here, okay? Because if Booner was here, I knew he would have had TJ Watt, and I had answers of why. And Patrick Surtain is exactly the right answer. I was going to go Patrick Surtain as well. I just think when you look at it, like when you hear Max Crosby and Aiden Hutchinson, you're like, damn, that sounds like elite. But then you start seeing and imagining Patrick Surtain, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold. And when you just think because there is great edge rusher duos, but there's not a single right now elite secondary all around. There's really not even that elite of a safety duo outside of Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. There's a couple, if you want to look down at Atlanta, or I'm trying to think of others right now, like Green Bay with Evan Williams, he's playing pretty well, but there's no elite safeties. So to have 3 elite DBs, 3 all-pro DBs, and a Pro Bowl caliber guy in Carlton Davis, that would be, I think, you fix every problem. So I would go Patrick Surtain as well. If I had to pick one other, and I don't even think it's a need. It's just I would love to see this guy on the Detroit Lions. It's Fred Warner. If Fred Warner was on my team, I'd sleep well at night. I would could you imagine even him, Jack, and Anzo? That would be insane. That's a 3-headed monster.
Yeah, and notice it's all defensive players. It's not like the defense. If you had another, it don't matter. Pick an elite corner, elite defensive end. Max Crosby's a good one, but man, you add some of these guys. That's what takes you to a whole nother level. Now, and if one of these guys develop into that said player, then sweet. But I didn't even know you were going to pick Patrick. I just went with Patrick.
What did I tell you? I said don't pick it in the same division. And what'd you do? You picked in the same division.
Hey, let's get Boone in here. Boone's joining us. Hey, Boone, what's going on? Look at him. I love this freeze.
I'm frozen. I was frozen.
Yeah, he got frozen.
What's up,
what's going on, Boone?
How are we doing today on this beautiful Tuesday night? How are we feeling?
Hey, we were just playing the clip of Amon-Ra saying, answering if you could add anyone to the Detroit Lions, who would it be? and he said Max Crosby.
I love his answer. Love it.
Besides Max, is there anyone that you would love to add right now for the playoff?
Man.
I said Patrick.
You know
Patrick
who's one that
Lucas,
I
took his.
don't think a lot of people would say, but I think you would like Super Bowl like caliber. Fred Warner would be Fred Warner would be something else. Like with no Anzo right now, like since Anzo's out, you don't know what he's gonna be like or when he comes back. Dude, Fred Warner with like Jack Campbell, you're in like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Or I would go snipe like, I don't know, dude. I would snipe someone from that Chiefs team who's just like they've won Super Bowls and know like, hey, this is what we need on defense, like Chris Jones or something. Like, I think that would be elite. I know you have DJ and Aleem, but like, dude, Chris Jones will go out there and like, dude, he's getting 12, 15 sacks a year. Like, bring that man and throw him on the defensive line. You'll figure that rotation out real quick.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see in the future. Maybe Max Crosby. Maybe that narrative isn't completely dead. Neither is the number 1 seed narrative. It's not dead right now. They stand in the first spot for Detroit Lions. Look at that playoff picture. Let me get
How
this
about
up.
that?
Look at this. Let me put this full screen so you guys can see it. But that's the NFC playoff picture after Week 14. You see it: Lions 1, Eagles 2, Seattle 3, Tampa Bay 4. Right now, the current division winners, and then you have Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay Packers, 3 teams in the NFC North in the playoff picture, and then the Washington Commanders in there.
Can I say something with this just real quick? And by the way, Klotzy, your hat looks beautiful. You look great tonight, Klotzy. You do. That hat is great. Good to see you, brother. Do want to throw this out there, and this isn't like a negative thing. Like I think the Lions are going to continue to win and get the 1 seed. Yep. Just like, let's just be aware, fellas. And I want the people to be aware, like, look at the Vikings. They're a game out and you still play them. You're like that small of an error in 1 or 2 games of like going from the 1 to the 5 seed. Like that's how tight this race is in the NFC right now. It's crazy. Like you could literally drop 1 game. And then you're going into week 18 fighting. Like if you win, you get the 1 seed. If you lose, you get the 5 seed. Like that's how like.
And that would put you in a potential rematch
with the Bucks. Yeah. Like
and
that's the team you lost to, and you're going on the road. Like I just don't. I know like people do realize it, and like I'm confident in this team to get the job done, win the division, and all that. Like they're like minus 1,000 to win the division, but again, like you're still 4 games left remaining. Let's not. I don't like Klotz doing it last week. I don't like it's a lock. Like I think it's a lock. I think it's a lock, but it's like my superstitious self. You guys know me very well. We've done this for a long time together. Now you guys know how I am about jinxing and all of that. Like, hey, let's 1 week at a time, as Dan Campbell says. 1 week at a time. Just
and
1 week.
I'm saying, the NFL better hope the Lions get the 1 seed, because playing Detroit with a chip on their shoulder in the playoffs, especially like, let's break this down. Outside of Philadelphia, Seattle, okay, so most of them would be outside. But if you break down the quarterbacks, like we're going to get into later, you're taking the Jared Goff advantage when it comes to a playoff game on the road outside. At least when I look at it. So I think the Lions, if they were to get the 5 seed, the 6 seed, wherever they would fall, obviously it'd be the 5th. That's the last team you want to play at that point, and they just go scrape through everybody else.
Yeah, like I'm gonna be honest, guys. When I looked at this initially, the NFC it's not like, besides you look at the NFC North teams and the Eagles, but like besides that, it's not like like you could get the Bucks in the round 1. It's like, okay, cool. Now to Booner's point, like you want the number 1 seed because you don't want to have to go on the road throughout the playoffs, and you want the bye week. Like he's absolutely right. But it's like you look at this NFC, it's like, man, like it's not like the Commanders are sneaking in. Like no, with all due respect, like you had a rookie quarterback, and that's like the back end. So the NFC, it really shows me how good the NFC North is, because you have 3 teams in here. And also it's like the division winners besides the Eagles, like the Seahawks, like you just put up like a 40+ piece on them early in the year. And then the Bucks, like they're a good team. Don't get me wrong, but they're not the same team they were when you beat them or when they beat you early in the year. You know what I mean? Like it's a weird, like I would love to see the AFC playoff picture. Like that's, you got Steelers, Bills, Chiefs, like Chargers, like good teams all around. I don't know. That
By
was
the way,
when I looked at this.
I'm sorry to get off topic. I was just driving. Obviously, like I was coming back from work. I just got this text. Did Michigan hire the new OC? Is that confirmed?
They did. Yeah.
Wow. Who is it? Is it Chip Lindsey? Is it the UNC OC? That's when I left work. I got an alert saying that there's a rumor that they potentially could. It seems like between my hour drive that it's official.
It's Chip Lindsey, and honestly, my hidden theory here, he's leaving because someone's coming in there. Which it's obviously I've seen it. Bill Belichick. I don't know if that is that. I've seen one guy report it. I don't know if it's true or not.
Mac Brown was leaving already. The head coach there.
And Bill Belichick, he's coming in there. I don't know if it's for sure, but I saw one guy tweeted out that it's already like a done deal, and he had like $30K. I don't know if that's true or not. But
it's so the Bill Belichick thing that he tweeted it out, but then and this is what I hate about some people. He tweeted it out, and then at the end of it, he goes, "UNC still has to they still have to come together on an agreement." Bill Belichick went to them and said, "Hey, these are my needs. This is what I want." They said he gave them a 400-page document and said, this is my like plan of what I'm going to do at UNC. This is the things that I need. Supposedly one of the things was when he leaves, his son is like his like predecessor and gets his job when he leaves UNC, which his son, by the way, it is funny, but his son's actually a great DC, great coach. He was over at Washington. He's done a good job. I don't know how good he did at Washington this year, to be honest.
Hey, by the way,
he's a decent guy.
Great coach. I can vouch for him.
I have no problem. I got no problem. I'm going to be honest. I don't pick a bone with nepotism. Like, I think a lot of the world, people want to complain when it fits their narrative. It's going to happen. As long as it's good. If his son's good, I think it's Steve. If he's good, dude, go ahead. Like you're setting him up and you're setting the school up. But so that Jeff, that came out and they have to review it. And then if they agree on the terms, the 400-page thing, then they're going to move forward potentially. So that's not a done deal. Mac Brown, I think, retired. Shout out Mac Brown, dude. Unbelievable coaching career. But yeah, no, this guy, honestly, UNC, their offense was extreme. I think they were like one of the top 10 offenses in college football this last year. And like, obviously, what's his name was just there last year. Drake May was just there. So like, he's had a good offense the last. They've had to score points. Like they never had a good defenses. So like,
yeah, the offense is always good. And supposedly under all these guys spoke with him that they're all in on him. So if they think it's as good, I'm in. I'm all in. I have heard that his girlfriend follows like all these different, like the nutrition there, the football team, this team. Like I think she does go to UNC, to be honest.
That's crazy work if that's true. That's insane.
Oh, that's well.
I don't like him going to college because you know what? I'm on the board of Bill Belichick breaking the all-time wins record. And if he goes to college, like the man is so old. If he goes to coach college football, he's not going back to the NFL. Like his career,
you got to think of like him. He's in the class with. I guess I get your total win record thing, but he's in that class with like in terms of on the NFL compared to college, like Nick Saban. And Nick Saban didn't work out in the NFL. Like I'm sure there's a part of him. Imagine if he goes to the college and they have like some success. Like
dude.
His
so
legacy
opposite though. Like I don't think it matters. Like if an NFL coach needs to be good in college, I think it's more so college to the NFL.
But you haven't for Bill though. He's already the GOAT. But to go to UNC and like let's say in three years they're like winning a ton of games and they have some success. It's like holy shit. Like to me that now you're looking at a guy. It's like he can coach at both levels.
Talking about a guy now.
Now here's a guy.
Yeah, I do it. I would love to see Bill in college. Like that dude.
It would be crazy to see.
I would love it.
Imagine a college football playoffs, UNC, Bill Belichick versus like
Bill Belichick versus Ryan Day.
Oh my gosh, Bill Belichick would coach circles around him with like a way worse roster.
Belichick would turn Davis Warren into a fucking All-American.
Honestly, I'll say this, and I'm just going to be completely honest. In the ACC, if he gets the UNC job, and he needs to get it done within the next week because of the portal opening and closing. I'll make the statement now. If Bill Belichick takes the UNC job, UNC will be in the college football playoffs next year. Yeah. It is a lock. And I'll tell you why. 2 reasons. One, the ACC is bad, so it is not hard to win the ACC. Number 2, as soon as he gets that job, think about the transfers that are going to want to go to play for
he'll
Bill
have-
Belichick,
he'll have
and
a lot
the recruits, like their recruiting classes are going to be insane. And then obviously coaching advantage, Jeff. You talk about that all the time in college football. Like if you have a coaching advantage, it's over, especially if you have the players.
Yeah.
I guarantee they make a college football. I would bet on it instantly. I might check right now.
And he's
Before he
got the
takes the
pull.
job.
He's got the pull. Well, he'll get a staff, like a staff.
Yeah.
together.
Oh, dude.
Guys will join him and play for him, and coach for him. So
That's why I think it's a little different, like going from college to the NFL and then going from the, like, if you're a guy at that stature going from the NFL to college, it's like,
Gonna get Wes Welker, Chad Ochocinco out there to coach the wide receivers.
Randy
He'd
Moss
probably
is
have
coaching.
he'd probably have a nasty coaching staff, like Jeff said.
yeah.
Mike Vrabel doesn't even go to the NFL. He's going to coach the defense at UNC for Bill Belichick.
Yeah, they'll be. They better be ready to dish out some cash because they'll pay for it. But they'll have success. Like they'll make it back just by Bill being there. The press, like the coverage, the publicity, like they'll be all right. Well, speaking of coaching, speaking of jumping and coaching different programs, we're talking in the NFL here. Ben Johnson. Do you guys see the clip of Albert Breer updating people with what his qualifications are? And I have a question after I play this clip of. It's a legitimate question, but let's play the clip from Albert Breer. This is from last night's Thursday Night Football game, and he went into what Ben's looking for, some more updated information. Let's hear him.
When you have the success that Detroit's had, other teams will want to raid your coaching staff. What are you hearing on all that?
Well, Ben Johnson's certainly going to be at the top of a lot of lists, but the Lions offensive coordinator is planning on taking a very different approach to this hiring cycle than he has to the last couple. He will not chase interviews. If he takes an interview, it's going to be with the intention of actually pursuing the job. And to that end, he has a couple of criteria. Number one, he'll be looking for organizational alignment, in particular between the GM and the head coach. And then he'll be looking for a recognition from the organization of the things that have gone wrong and a willingness to fix them. And of course, Ben Johnson's not the only name on the Lions coaching staff that's going to garner interest. Defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn's done a great job as well. He's got connections to both the Jets and the Saints. He played for the Jets. He coached for the Saints. I'd expect both those teams to have interest in him.
All right, Albert.
Okay, so nothing much we've already known, but some of the things I guess Albert Breer going into detail to me, like weird detail, like he expects organizations to learn from their past mistakes. Like that's kind of like it's fair, but like I haven't heard that one. Like that's like an oddly specific thing. Like
Dude.
You're looking for. It's like you need
It's
to
like
repent your
both of
sins
those.
and like understand what you did wrong. It's fair as hell, by the way. And I don't think there hasn't been too many coaches that can just like demand like a list of like qualifications, like what do you expect from your organization? Repent your sins. Also on top of that, like got to be great in lockstep from top to bottom. Dallas Cowboys out of there immediately. So like that's what he's looking for. I'll ask you, well, one, your reaction to kind of that. I think Ben, well, I don't know. I don't know what opening this year would be intriguing to him.
I have a new team on my radar for Ben Johnson for the boys.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Because
Were you going to say a team? Because I don't want to pick your
honest.
team.
I was going to say one.
So I have a team. Klotz, it might be the same team. By the way, too, just want to throw it out there too. Was that Albert Breer that reported that? Just want to make sure. Hey, we got the video from Albert Breer. Maybe someone else reported it at some other time. That's who we got the video from. I just want to throw that out there. That was where we heard the report.
Can I try to guess your team, Boone?
I don't know. I write it down on a piece of paper. Do you have a piece of paper? Write it down, and then let's see if we have the same one. But I'll say this, Jeff. Like with that, I'm with you. Like this is odd because even like some like head coaches with experience, like you see Bill Belichick who could not get a job this last offseason. It's like very, very slim for coaches to be able to ever have like to be able to be like, hey, I want organizational alignment. And I want you guys to be like the willingness to fix your problem, like to be able to like go to an organization, say, this is what I want, like that in depth. That's insane. Like, I think that's like, it's good for Ben. Like it's good for him. Cause like he could stay in Detroit for the next 3 or 4 years until he sees like Chicago. I'm sorry guys. And maybe he does go there. Those two things are not good in Chicago. Neither one. Until maybe Ryan Poles is out, I would not say that either of those things. Like they have zero organizational alignment. That was shown that they kept Matt Eberflus for an extra year. Like that, there's no way you're aligned if you're keeping Matt Eberflus. And to fix your problems, Like, you have had the same problems in the offensive line for so long. You haven't fixed anything. So, like, no, like, they're done there. My team, fellas, and I saw on Twitter someone bring this up the other day, and I was instantly like, this is it. This is the job for Ben Johnson. Klotz, did you write it down already?
Yep.
The team that I picked.
It's the team that I picked too. I think we're going to be in lockstep here.
So the team that I picked, and this is one of those situations where Ben is just, there's a reason he's been staying. He probably has a couple organizations around the NFL where he's like, I will not leave unless it's for these specific teams. We saw a team last night, fellas, with an insane offense, and they just need to build out a defense. And I think they can do it. You can do it through the draft and free agency. What the Cincinnati Bengals have done is a perfect opportunity for Ben Johnson with Jamar Chase, with Joe Burrow. They said yesterday that Joe Burrow came out and said, we're gonna bring T. Higgins back. We're gonna find a way to do it. And you have guys like Mike Gesicki, Chase Brown's a good weapon. You can bring more weapons. It's a perfect fit for a Ben Johnson.
They're going to have a nice draft pick this year too.
And yeah, they will. And honestly, there's like, it's one of those things where he might be in Detroit again next year because they don't fire their head coach. And Zach Taylor has another year in Cincy. And he's like, hey, I just want to wait for that job to open up because I want to coach Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. I think it's a perfect spot for him. Perfect.
Yeah. I had the same for all the reasons you just said, Boone. And I wouldn't even be like, I'd be like, thank God he went to the Bengals and not somewhere in the NFC.
I'm curious with the Bengals, and I think for quarterback that makes a ton of sense. Like to play with Burrow. I'm not familiar with like their organization to know like if it makes sense. I don't know the ownership or the GM. I'm not sure. I can't even really speak on all that. I'm curious if they do give Zach Taylor like one more year and they just fire the defensive coordinator. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know if they look at like Zach Taylor as like the fall guy or they look at it like, well, Zach Taylor's an offensive guy. The offense, like Joe Burrow's the best quarterback in the league right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I'm curious if they do fire Zach Taylor. I am. I honestly, besides, and I like that. It's a good one. The Bengals. I don't know any other teams that's like, I think there's a likelihood he returns. I do. I would not be shocked if Ben Johnson comes back for another year. I think, man, if I'm Ben personally, and do whatever he wants, I'm waiting for that job over there in Kansas City to open up. I'm waiting for maybe Andy Reid's got another. He maybe go for the three-peat. Maybe they fall short. Maybe he retires. He's getting old. Maybe you can go coach Pat Mahomes. Maybe you have an opportunity to do that. I don't know. Joe Burrow wouldn't be a bad one. But if I'm Ben, like I would just stay another year. Honestly, I don't like.
Andy Reid just re-signed a deal though. I think he just literally re-signed this offseason.
How long?
I don't know. It was like behind closed door. It was like in wraps, but there was like rumors that he signed like a pretty big extension. I could double check here. I don't know if like the weird thing with some coaches is like the numbers always don't come out. Some do, some don't. I can see if they got released.
Yeah, because I mean, what Andy Reid is almost 70 years old. What is he? I don't know his exact age.
Yeah. So in April of 2024. So yeah, they did put the numbers out. So right after they won the Super Bowl, he signed a 5-year extension. So he's got a while. And that's on top of what he already probably had. So he's probably already had a few years. So minimum, you would think 5 years, Andy Reid's just going to keep this thing rolling.
Oh, fair. I think there's also a chance that, in a couple of years, even if he retires, they'll let him keep some of that money. I think the 5 is just like, hey, 5 years. Because he'll be 71 years old, 70, maybe 2.
I'm guessing he had like my guess is he had a minimum of like 2 years left on his deal. Or maybe one more year. So like he probably has a 6-7 year deal right now.
You think he coaches at 73, 74?
Yeah, I mean Andy Reid. I mean there's no signs of him slowing down. Like look at how old was Bill Belichick when he left the Patriots?
I think he was Andy Reid's the oldest coach in the league, even with Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I just don't see Andy Reid stopping. I mean, the man's got Patrick Mahomes. His legacy is going to be insane if he sticks there for 3 or 4 more years. I just like with Ben, he can wait. I'm with you, Jeff. Like wait a year. I just think there's going to be jobs eventually. Like in the NFL, we see it all the time. Like there are teams who are good and have good players who like they can't get over that hump, and it's like organizations get very impatient. And as soon as one of those coaches leave, I think that's what Ben is waiting for. Like, I don't think he wants a Chicago job. I don't think he wants
I'm with you.
a New York Giants or Jets job. I think he wants, like, if the Bengals open up this offseason, or like, I'm trying to think, Shift God said John Harbaugh. I don't think John would get fired, but say John just out of nowhere retires after this year because he's just like, hey, I've had enough. Like, there are just organizations out there to where, boom, it's like that job opened up. Like I need that job. So I want to say Dallas, but that's a terrible. Again,
he ain't going with Jerry. No way.
With Jerry, unless Jerry steps down, I don't think he would want to go.
Sun in that stadium. No.
And I'm curious. The Bengals. One thing I will say about the Bengals is they don't fire head coach. Well, they're cheap, so they don't fire head coaches. Like they early in their contract, like they'll milk it to, like, not have to pay a bunch of money to guys. I don't know. I see people commenting about Mike Brown. I don't know much about Mike Brown. I have heard he's cheap. Like, I didn't know, like, if this is true, Mike Brown used to make players do their own laundry. I know they have an outdoor practice facility, which is disgusting, like in Cincinnati. So
I could be wrong. I think they're building a new one. I'm pretty sure I heard that.
So maybe that ties into, like, fixing their old ways, maybe what Ben's saying. I don't know. If they don't, like, that's Joe Burrow is the biggest selling point, and Jamar, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I'll ask you guys, who do you think leaves first, AG or Ben Johnson?
It's tough because I think they're going to leave together. Like, I think if Ben stays around, AG is will, because you can use the same argument and maybe not the qualification where Ben is like, oh, you can demand, like, AG is not going to be able to demand as much from the ownership. But when you look at AG, especially when you just want to use the context of this year, AG can go get the Jets job, the Cowboys job. AG also knows what that entails. And when you look at these, like, you look at the possibility of Philadelphia, Booner, you just brought a situation up with, like, potentially in John Harbaugh. The better openings will probably be in next year's offseason. And when you look at, there was no Aiden Hutchinson, you're going to be able to get Brian Branch a year better, Kirby Joseph a year better. AG has been doing a lot with the little, and he's finally going to have a season next year, knock on wood, if they don't have an injury bug right now, to have his best lineup out there. If they bring back Carlton Davis, now you got Terry on year 2, Jack Campbell in year 3. We all know that he's going to be a beast at that point. And then you got Aleem, who they extended for a reason. And then you're going to have a true edge rusher, hopefully for cheap, with Zadarius Smith, and you're going to add more draft revenue to it. So if I look at AG, like, I get that when you look at the Saints, it's like a connection where it's like, oh, he used to play there. He used to play for the Cowboys, used to play for the Jets. And when you look at the Saints, they're going to be at the cap of negative $88 million this offseason. They're dead last in the NFL in available cap space. They got a bunch. They're going to be getting a complete rebuild. So for AG, do you really want to stop being the defensive coordinator for the number 1 team in the NFL, and you're going to finally have a chance to have a season with Aiden Hutchinson and all these pieces together, and there's going to be better openings next offseason? I wouldn't if I'm AG, and I think he realizes that. And I think the culture here makes it a lot harder to walk away compared to other teams.
What about you, Boone?
I was pretty honestly, we had this conversation about a month ago. I think it came up with the AG and the Saints stuff, and I brought up a couple months ago that I think he's going to go to New Orleans. I think just based off of Ben Johnson, like, over the last 2 or 3 years, has been like everyone wants that offensive guy. Like, everyone wants the next Sean McVay. Everyone wants what Ben Johnson's doing with this offense. So I think the fact that Ben Johnson's able to sit back and, like, say, hey, I want organizational alignment. I want this. I want organizations to be able to admit when they're wrong, this. Like, I think Ben's going to be able to stay if he wants to and still get a head coaching job. I think with AG over the last, like, AG hasn't had the last 2 or 3 years, like, the want that Ben Johnson around the league has been. It's just been like last year to end the year, and then now heading into this offseason. It's like, hey, AG's legit, and, like, he's a legit candidate. So I think AG, like, I think they both go, or they, like, this year. But if they were to stay, I would think AG is the one that says, hey, I'm going to go take this job. Just because, like, I see AG being able to take the Dallas job with that defense that they have. And, like, AG being able to build up the New Orleans Saints defensively and bringing in a really, really good OC. Like, I do think that's possible. I think it's different with Ben, to where when it's an offensive head coach, like, you have to have weapons. You have to be able to look at that and be like, all right, what do we have here? And I think, like, defensively, it's a bit easier to say, hey, I just need to take this job and run with it. Find a way.
I think it's AG too. He leaves early, but he leaves before Ben. And the reasoning for that is I think Ben has more cachet. Like, I think the league is trending in the direction of offensive coordinators, and Ben is the best OC right now in the league. So he's going to have more like leeway, or he can be more patient. Organizations are still going to reach out to him. AG, not that he's like he's not some, pushover or anything, but no, being a defensive coordinator, like, to me, if you have a job offer and you like it, take it. Like, you have to take it. You can't wait. And it's not the same, in my opinion. So
let me ask you, like, as a counterpoint though, just if AG goes through this season and he has these head coaching looks, and I'm sorry, there's no way that he won't have those next year when you get Aiden Hutchinson back, and that defense is going to be even better. I think this will be like, kind of like, wow, okay, Aaron Glenn's on the scene. Aaron Glenn, what's he going to do this offseason? I think if you add Aiden Hutchinson and you repeat as the defensive performance and it gets even better because of the personnel, like, AG is going to become more desirable, in my opinion, after that, compared to, because you will have back-to-back seasons like that compared to just one season.
You're
like, the openings will be there.
You're absolutely right that his stock will rise. I think where I'm coming from is I think the jobs he's interested in are open now. Like, I think
Saints, the Cowboys.
Yeah, like the jobs he'll like are open now. Like, you haven't heard once anyone come out and say, I found out AG's list of things he wants in an organization. Like, that dude is like, he's all grit. You know, not that Ben isn't, but he's like, Saints, let's turn it around. You know what I'm saying? Let's do it. Like, I think he's got that in him. Ben, Ben's like he's more like high maintenance. He doesn't want to walk into a rebuild. You know what I'm saying?
And
go ahead.
To that point, Jeff, just like Klotz, you got to think about it. Like, we've seen candidates every single offseason for our whole lives, right? Like, we've seen it. We have never really, like, we've maybe a couple times here and there, you see candidates and like guys like Shefty and all these different guys go on air and say, hey, Ben Johnson can choose wherever he wants to go. Like, in this cycle and last year's cycle, Ben Johnson was the only name that was picked out to where it's like, hey, he can choose. He can choose. Like, AG is in all these, like, he's going to be a head coach next year, but his name isn't getting thrown around like the Ben Johnson where it's like, hey, he can choose where he wants to go. Like, obviously he could turn it down and say, I'll wait till next year. But like, I think it's very well known, and it's been out there for about 2 years now, that Ben Johnson, if he says, hey, I want to go here, that team will drop everything and say, yep, you're coming. Like, he is like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, like the example, but like, you just don't see that. Like, every coach doesn't have that. And like, yeah, we could think AG can come back and have a year and do what he did this year and even better with Hutch and Zadarius Smith and like 100%. But like, that doesn't change the fact where if AG does that for another year, he could say, hey, I want that job. I want that job. I want that job. Like, he'll have options. But like with Ben Johnson and a lot of different, like, it's very rare that a head coach in the offseason's like, hey, I want any job I want. If it's open, I will get that over anyone. Like, if Ben Johnson and AG probably interviewed for the same job and they were like both like, yeah, I want it, who are they going to pick?
Yeah,
the offensive mind.
You're going to pick Ben.
Exactly. So that's my point. It's just like, Ben is able to choose. AG, he's going to have choices, 2 or 3 maybe. It's just not going to be as like to where it's like, if he wanted this specific job, he can interview it and he could probably win that job over. It's not a guarantee. With Ben Johnson, it's a guarantee. Like, any job he wants, because of that offensive mind and that Sean McVay type mind, that's what you get out of it.
Yeah, I do want to address this because it does contradict kind of my belief. And shout out to Wheezy, man. That's my guy. Well, real quick before we get to Wheezy, J Hart, appreciate you becoming a Crunch member.
Shout out J Hart, man,
dude. But Wheezy,
2 months.
Wheezy. Oh, by the way, yeah, that is huge. Shout out to J Hart. But Wheezy D, let me ask you a question. He says, well, I'll read the comment for those who are listening. Hiring offensive minds is the old format, starting to get exposed. Why not keep Zach Taylor? I want to make this very clear. I don't think hiring an offensive coordinator means you just immediately have a good coach. There's obviously guys that are not going to work out. But if I told you guys, give me the top 10 head coaches in the league right now, how many of them would be offensive minds? You know what I'm saying? How many? Probably 70% of that would be. Mike Tomlin's in there. John Harbaugh's in there.
Jim.
But Jim played quarterback. I mean, he's
as far as a coach, I'm just defensive.
Maybe not. Yeah, he's not maybe like the Sean McVay type. But yeah, okay. Well, let's just say Jim, for example. But who else?
I mean, yeah.
We
could just
right.
Do you just want to look at the top teams in the NFL right now, like the Kansas City
honestly,
offense?
Yeah.
Lions, you would say offense with Dan Campbell. Eagles, Sirianni has been a quarterback's coach his whole life. Kevin O'Connell, quarterback's coach. Buffalo, Sean McDermott. Oh, wait.
Sean McDermott's defensive, but he's not to me a top.
So you got. I was about to say. I said Sean. I was like, and then Mike Tomlin, defense, right? Matt LaFleur, Packers, offense.
Top,
McDonald, defense in Seattle. Houston Texans. There's DeMeco Ryans, and then you have John Harbaugh. But like you notice, like those top 8, 9 right now in the NFL.
Yeah,
there's only 2 defensive minds, which is Mike Tomlin and Sean McDermott. And even Sean McDermott, if you look at it, who does he have? Josh Allen. So,
yeah, and honestly, and you look at like teams like the Patriots, like Gerard Mayo, they're already thinking about getting rid of him to get an offensive coordinator to help groom Drake May. Like I think that's a great idea. And all due respect to Gerard Mayo, I don't hate when people have to lose their job, but that's what are we doing? It's the
30. This is. Hold on, wrong. Not true. He is a hybrid. He does everything. Dan Campbell is an offensive. This is where people get mixed up a lot. You have Ben Johnson, so it gets over. Dan Campbell's an offensive-minded head coach. A lot of these plays, a lot of the schemes, a lot of the things offensively you do. Ben gets credit. Dan Campbell's also an offensive mind. Like a very, very. People say it all the time. Like he might look like a big dumb like like a jacked football player.
Yeah, like a meathead.
No. Ben Johnson says it all the time. Dan Campbell's an offensive-minded head coach. Like he is a very, very good offensive mind. Like don't call. It's good being a hybrid, but offensively he is dialed in. I didn't mean to put that up.
I think it's easy to. It's probably easier to say that because Dan kind of lets out his coach's coach, and he's like there, so you could say like, oh, he's kind of like the leader of men guy. But even like John, you don't look at, and he's, but John is a defensive guy. He's got that background with defense. So even though he's still like the, whatever you call a hybrid, like there is coaches specialize in one. Dan knows defense, but you always look at like, he's more lean towards offense. That's kind of how he's been. He's been a tight ends coach. He's been an assistant coach, tight ends coach. Like he's never coached the defensive side of the ball, but he knows it. But I get your point, Booner. I want to bring this up. Speaking of the defense, speaking of AG, a player that is your number one corner is helping the Lions do some special things. I want to put this up first so we can look at this. Detroit Lions PR put this out, and this is crazy. Lions secondary, obviously Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, Carlton Davis, Amik Robertson, Taron Arnold. Detroit has not allowed an opponent to exceed a 60% completion percentage rate in 7 straight games, the longest single season streak by the Lions since 1976. Secondary completion percentage, they have not exceeded a 60%. Now, we've seen games where guys, Jared Goff's done it pretty often where he's exceeding 60%. And you're seeing more quarterbacks, good quarterbacks, especially in good offensive systems. They can do it. Lions have not allowed one to do it in the last 7 games, and they faced Jordan Love twice. So keep that in mind. Who's I would say a pretty good quarterback. Also on top of that, this came out, which I love Carlton Davis PR. I love it because he deserves the praise. Detroit Times, shout out to them. Shout out to him, actually. He put this out. Since week 9, Carlton Davis is a PFF's top-rated cornerback with an overall defensive grade of 83.1. And he is an expiring deal, Carlton Davis. We talked about, him coming back and how important it is for the secondary. You got to see the defense without him. He's very important. He's, I would say, a top 15 in that area corner in the NFL. He's playing really well this year. Texans had a 2-interception game. He's a playmaker, had a dropped one against the Colts. I'll ask you guys your thoughts on you could say the secondary and maybe Carlton. Will he be extended? Do you think he stays in Detroit with them drafting 2 corners this year?
Klotz, I'll let you. That's your old position.
I think that's exactly what you do. Carlton Davis is the best cornerback that's been in Detroit since Darius Slay. And I know that's not saying much, but it's saying something. And when you look at what Carlton Davis has done, just look at when Carlton Davis was out and you went up against Anthony Richardson of all teams, and you see Ashton Dulin and Alec Pierce. These guys run butt naked on Kindle Vildor. And I think Taron Arnold will get better. But even in year 2 of Taron Arnold, I'm not comfortable with that being as your cornerback 1 when you can have an option of Carlton Davis. And when you look at the Carlton Davises, for the contract that he'd be asking for, that's going to be the best bargain because he's already won a Super Bowl with Tampa. He's about to win another one this year with Detroit. And when you talk about coming back to a Super Bowl team, He knows what that's like. He knows what that means. And he's not the cornerback that he once was. So he's not going to be expensive. When you look at the L'Jarius Sneed sweepstakes that took off this offseason, it's not going to be one of those situations. So I think when Carlton Davis is here, he's somebody that you want, but also, in my opinion, somebody that you need. He's not going to be a premier corner, but he's somebody that makes a difference for this team, especially when you could bring in another guy, even if it's not a high-end guy. Carlton Davis be your cornerback 2 or 3 as he gets a little bit older. That's a great option to have just because of the experience that's going to come with it. So in my opinion, it's a no-brainer to re-sign him. Even if it's a 2 to 3 year deal, I'd be all for it.
I think the biggest question mark with all, or not question mark, just like the biggest point with all of it with Carlton, like you just drafted 2 rookie corners. You don't have to pay another corner like for a couple of years. So you can sign Carlton Davis, and like when you look at money allocated to different positions from Brad Holmes and like how they're going to do it, like everyone questions like, oh, who's going to walk? Like they can't sign everyone. They can't do it. All right. Well, you look at a position group like the corners to where it's like, all right, you're going to have your corner room. Terrion Arnold, Dan said it this week. I don't know if you guys saw this. Dan had high praise for Terrion and said, hey, a lot of rookies, when they hit their bump, they boom. He said the rookies, guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Hutch, Panay, like in their careers, when they hit their bump in their rookie year and they like progressed and started going up, he was like, that's what Terrion's doing right now. So you have a guy in Terrion Arnold who is going to be a very, very good corner in this league for the next 2 or 3 years, like as he gets better and gets a feel for the NFL. And you have him on a rookie deal. All right. You look at the like money allocated in position groups in your corner room. You have 2 guys essentially. You can count a Meeks. So Meeks on a different deal, but you have 2 rookie corners on rookie deals. All right, now we have money to spend on Carlton Davis. And Carlton's not going to ask for top 5, top 10 corner money either. Like you're going to get him at a good price. So Klotz, I'm with you. I think when you resign Carlton, I don't know what he's going to be asking for. If you get him on a 2 or 3 year deal, and when his deal's up, Terrion, like you're going to have to extend Terrion, and then you could figure it out and go from there. And you don't have to worry about that for 2 or 3 years. Like I think that's like the perfect situation for Brad in the corner room. Like, hey, Carlton, we'll give you this 2 or 3 year deal. As soon as this deal is up, we're gonna have to extend Terrion, and we can revisit where you're at in your career. But like, you have to bring Carlton back, man. You have to. I remember when we signed him. Remember, I talked to Che, and the first thing he texted me, the first thing I heard about Carlton coming to Detroit was, hey, when he's playing at a high level, like this man's a top 5. Like he put, maybe not top, I can't remember the exact number he put. He might have said top 10, but he's a top 10 corner at his position when he's playing at the highest level. And over the last 6-7 weeks, he's been playing at that level, and he's earning a contract. He is earning one. And I just think the money with the rookies, like that matters. Like that, take all of that into account.
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps. Certainly, you have 2 corners on rookie contracts. Like that allows you to re-sign Carlton Davis, and it's not the same exact thing, but it's a similar conversation. We had this yesterday with Sam Darnold and the Vikings, and how they're in a situation where they have a rookie quarterback they drafted, and they have a proven guy in Sam Darnold who's playing really well. How do they handle that? That's kind of how I similarly look at the Lions. Like you have a number 1 corner playing well, and you have Terrion Arnold who's playing well, but you have like an unknown commodity with Ennis Rakestraw. Like to me, I would rather re-sign the known commodity. Like I know what Carlton Davis brings. He's a very good corner. He's someone that brings some stability, and he's been very good all year. So I am 100% down to re-sign Carlton Davis. I just don't know what the money would look like, because he's making 14. I would be curious. But I would for sure be down to re-sign him. I think he should be re-signed. I think it makes a ton of sense. Like you're Danny, to go into next year and you're still like a Super Bowl contender. Let's say you win one as well. Let's say you win a Super Bowl, you're coming off it, you want to repeat. To have 2 rookie corners, it's tough. You know, like that's a tough or second year corners. Excuse me, that's tough.
Danny put it in the chat too. Like right now, he currently has the top 5 contract. When you re-sign him, I wouldn't think that it's another top 5 deal for him. At least I don't know. I could be wrong with that, but
let's look up. I'll look up contracts. Okay, so you have guys in the league right now. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey. I think he's still the highest paid corner on average. Jalen Ramsey, Patrick Surtain, Jair, AJ Terrell, Denzel Ward. I don't know where he'd be he won't then.
He'll be his prime.
So he won't. I don't think.
I would
he'll
think
sit-
you get him at a good price for a 2 or 3 year deal. You can get him at a good price.
I wouldn't be surprised if you got him back. Like on how much is Denzel Ward making per year?
Denzel's making about 20.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if he re-signs for the exact same amount that he's re-signed.
Take that
for
15.
right now, like 14, 15 million a year. I wouldn't be surprised. Like
he's about 14.8 average.
Like a 3-year, $48 million deal. Like, I don't think that's crazy at all. And I think it's honestly, when you look at this division, how many wide receivers does Green Bay have? They got 3, 4, 5 of them. Right now, I know Keenan's getting older, but you look at Roma Dunze and DJ Moore, that can cause problems. Then you look at Minnesota, Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson be problems for a while. So the more corners that you do have, I think it's important, because when you look at the strengths of the other teams in the division, that a lot of the times they're looking at the wide receiver core as one of them. So you need to be able to combat that. And to your point, Jeff, like if you roll out there next year with Terry and Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw, no Carlton Davis, like you're probably going to bring in a free agent, but you're not going to be seeing a Carlton Davis level free agent, in my opinion, unless you're breaking the bank. And you're not going to be able to do that when you got guys that you have to bring back on your own team when you talk about extensions. So Carlton Davis is the best bang for your buck. And he can
I think the realistic take is he's 28. This is probably, if he gets like a 4-year, this is probably his last like big deal. You know what I'm saying? So I think not that he'll command top dollar, but he's definitely going to want to raise. So he's making 14 now, almost 15. Like, I think he gets bumped probably another couple million. Like, I can see him wanting like 16, 17, something like that. I don't know. That just my opinion. He's getting 28 years old. Like, by the time this contract, if he does sign a 4-year, like, you're going to be, 32? Like, a cornerback position, it's tough when you get into your 30s, to be that, to be what you were in your 20s. So I would think Carlton, even though it's like we're obviously cover the Lions, we're a little biased. It's like, oh yeah, he'll take a little. I think he'd probably want, and I think the Lions wouldn't be opposed to giving him that, to be honest with you. While you have Terry, it's like your Terrion's under contract now for 4 years, and then the 5th-year option. So you have time here with a rookie corner. So I don't know. That's my take on it. I think he'd probably want a couple $1 million raise, and I'm curious if the Lions do it. I hope they do, because you don't want to be in the same position you were looking for more corners, like just get a guy, and then you have him and Terry on. And then if Ennis shows a ton of flash, then you have 3 guys. Like, that's okay. I just don't want to see Vildor ever again. And just don't do that, please.
No more Jerry Jacobs. No more Will Harris. No more Jeff Iafrate.
Yeah.
Let's have legitimate guys out there, please.
And he fits the culture. He's a perfect culture fit. Perfect. Doesn't talk.
What is it? His cap hit this year is what? 4 million.
He's a solid dude. I don't know what the cap hit is.
It's $4.5 million this year. So like it's gonna cost you more probably, because I think the Bucks. He was signed to I'm trying to look at here.
I don't know the length of the deal. He signed with the Bucks. That's what I don't know. I know he got 30 mil guaranteed, and it was a $44.5 million contract. So I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I think you have to sign Carlton. You have to bring him back. I'm just interested. The deal is what matters. And I don't think, like, for people to think like we can't overpay. Like, again, I'm just going to I'm going to say this now. I'll say it when the contract gets signed in the offseason. You have rookie deals in that position group. Like, I do truly think, like, you can look around and say, hey, we have to allocate the money a specific way because of guys like Panay and Amon-Ra. Branch is going to have to get extended. Kirby's going to have to get extended, I believe, this offseason. Like, there are going to be Hutch is going to have to get extended. Like, there are going to be extensions that are happening. So you have to find a way to allocate the money. The one good thing is, like, guess what? Gibbs is on a rookie deal, so you're able to re-sign a D-Mont. Like, I kind of look at it as a position group type of deal. Like, I think the reason they were so comfortable giving D-Mont that extension and saying, hey, we're going to lock you in for a couple more years is because they knew, hey, we have Gibbs on a rookie deal for the next couple of years as well.
Right.
So I do think they're comfortable doing things like that. And it's like, look at, you can look at Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra signs that deal. All right, we know we have J-Mo at least for another year on a rookie deal, and then we can handle that when that time comes. Yep. So I think they look at those like case to case. I think it's position group, and I think with Carlton, it's a no-brainer. Like, it's a no-brainer to bring that man back. No-brainer.
Well, one guy they did bring back, Jared Goff, signed him to a long-term deal, and he's balling. Among all NFL quarterbacks this season, Lions quarterback Jared Goff ranks first in passing first down percentage, 43%. Second in passer rating, 109.1. Second in completion percentage. Speaking of that, 72.4%. Third in yards per attempt, which is, hey, pushing the ball downfield. Third in games with 2 passing touchdowns, 9. Fifth in passing TDs, 25 at this point in the season. So he's got the stats. Now I'll ask you guys this very simple question. We had this discussion before the year and we had it last year. Is Jared Goff the best quarterback in the NFC? Is he the best quarterback in the NFC? I don't want, and this isn't, you know what? This isn't, he's playing like it, but he isn't. Like, I need a yes or a no. Is he the best quarterback in the conference? What do you guys think?
I mean, are we really having it? Undoubtedly, Jared Goff is the best quarterback in the NFC.
Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray.
Undoubtedly, right now, Jared Goff is the best quarterback in the NFC. Yes,
Jalen Hurts.
He is
Baker
second
Mayfield.
in the. He is second. He is the second quarterback in odds to win MVP right now. It is Jared, the guy above him. If you want to say Lamar is above him because he might be statistically odds wise, Josh Allen, but Jared Goff, what he's doing this year, Klotz, we could say all we want, like, hey, this guy, he makes all the fundamentals of throws, all of that. Guys, winning football games, to me, it's like people make fun of it, and maybe it's different now because of the Jared Goff conversation. The last 2 years when I made these arguments, one thing I always took into account was wins, like winning. Like people, and then people would ask me, Jeff, you ask me all the time, so is winning a quarterback stat now? Yes. You're the leader of your football team. You're the face of your franchise. What you do makes or breaks. If you're on a good team, it makes or breaks whether you win a game or not, or you lose it. Because if you lose a game and you make a bad play, guess who that's on? Who's that on, Jeff?
I mean,
it's on the quarterback.
Yeah.
It gets put on the quarterback. Even if the defense played bad, what Shannon Sharp and all that, what does he do? It's on the quarterback. You win the game. It is a quarterback stat. Jared Goff has one of the highest completion percentages in the NFL. He can make. I don't think there's a throw the man can't make right now playing at the level that he's playing. He has put up some of the best numbers in the NFL, some of the most touchdowns in the NFL. You could take away that 5 interception game. He's taken care of the ball outside of that game all season long. This man, there is not a question. Stafford makes some incredible throws. I think all time. He's a Hall of Famer. He has one of the best arms and some of the best vision that we've ever seen out of a quarterback. But we're talking about winning football games, making the plays to win, leading a football team. That is quarterback. That is a quarterback's job. Jared Goff is the best quarterback in the NFC right now. There is no question. You will not convince me that anyone else is above him in the NFC right now. You will not.
Boone, I thought you were preaching outside of the quarterback win thing, but yes, Jared Goff, without a doubt. It's Jared Goff, gap, and then probably Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, that tier of guys. And then if you want to throw Baker in there, that's fine. But as far as just, especially Jared Goff, his mobility, obviously he's not mobile. It's not what I'm saying, but his mobility has improved this year for sure. When you look at specifically inside the pocket, after that Tampa Bay game when he threw 55 times, he was probably like, oh, I'm tired of throwing 55 times. I need to make some plays here. I need to stop trying to wait for this defense to do something, and I got to start creating some plays here. So his mobility inside the pocket, and we've seen time to time outside of the pocket, he's got 2 rushing touchdowns on the season. And just when you look, there's usually once or twice a game where he takes off for a little ugly 3-yard scamper. It's hideous to look at, but he gets the job done. But I think that he's added that element to his game, and it shows a little bit more confidence in Goff because you can see that when the pocket's collapsing, he's still making those throws. You don't see a lot of those ducks anymore. You see under pressure, he's able to make those throws and step up. And I think that's allowed him to really separate against the guys who are trying to figure it out, like the Jordan Loves, who is supposed to be really good. Kyler Murray, really good. Matthew Stafford, really good, but there's just times when he's turning the ball over too much. Jared Goff, like Booner said, takes care of the ball, and he's developing as a player. Even though he's in this stage of his career, he's still finding a way to get better.
So, I actually agree with you guys. The only thing I know what Boone's going to say, of course.
This man just likes to be different.
No, I actually agree with you guys. I'm not, obviously me and you were speaking facts, Boone, and Lucas, you guys both were. I'm not a quarterback win guy, but you nailed every point. I mean, the guy, Jared Goff is balling. He is balling. And people want to bring, 5 picks. Okay, he had a bad game, terrible game. A couple of those weren't his fault, but we don't have to get into that. Whatever. But the numbers speak for themselves. Like the last 2 years, guys, he's been top 5 in the league in passing yards, passing touchdowns. And I said before the season, Stafford, I put Stafford ahead of him. Still, I think at this point, I love Stafford. I do. And people might be like, oh, I'm saying Goff's better right now. He's better. In Goff's and still in his prime. I mean, Goff right now, I know quarterback, you can argue what's a prime and all this stuff. Like Jared's 30 years old.
Yeah,
Stafford's on
like
his way out of the
5
league.
years of a prime.
Stafford has I don't know, is it I guess tangibles or intangibles? Like he has the arm talent, he's got all this stuff, but we can't go off like it's like I'm talking numbers have to matter. How well the consistency, like that dude's been balling all year. Like you saw the stat, like what is he, second in the league in 2 passing touchdown games? Like the dude's consistent, and I get. Well, he's got weapons. Well, Stafford has Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and Kyron Williams. Like he's got guys too. You know what I mean? And he's got Sean McVay. Like he's got a good situation. Like I'm not. Yeah. The O-line. They put money into the O-line. Like I get it, but I would go Goff. I think Goff's the best quarterback in the NFC right now. Last year, I had Stafford ahead of him, but this year I don't know how you can disagree with that. Like
I would say, this year he's playing at an MVP level. Like he's in the MVP conversation, and if he plays well the rest of the next 4 games, he's going to be a MVP finalist. So it's hard, like unless you find another quarterback in the NFC that has an opportunity to be an MVP finalist this year, which right now there is not one. Then he's currently the best in the NFC right now, and you can make an argument anywhere. Like I see Charles Holland in the chat. Eagles fan probably make an argument for Jalen Hurts. I don't know if you guys saw the video this week. Did you guys see the video of after the game?
Eagles fans walking out.
Getting interviewed, and they're like, "We'll never win with Jalen Hurts. This guy's done."
Yeah,
like they were going off on it. So like, if that, this is how I know. What's his name? Charles Holland just might not be a real Eagles fan because like.
Yeah,
he's saying that Hurts is better. Like, I think if you asked every Eagles fan walking out of the stadium, they'd be like, all those people who said Hurts like we'll never win with him, they're all probably like, we would win with Jared Goff.
If they have Goff right now, oh my god, I'll tell you what, he's getting the weapons involved.
Jared Goff's thrown for over 4,500 yards like 4 or 5 times in his career. Jalen Hurts' highest is like 3,700.
Yeah, and he's not getting Devontae Smith killed.
Yeah,
that's a big difference.
He's nowhere near. He's not no. He doesn't touch Goff in terms of being a pocket passer. Now, like running, like he's more athletic. Certainly, yes.
Did you see how he was seeing the field on Sunday? The man could not. He had no clue what he was doing. Yeah, I mean, he had AJ Brown open 10 times and didn't even think about throwing him the ball.
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts is a better football player, but Jared Goff is a better quarterback. And like I think that's like an example. Like if you're going to use the argument with Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, I take Joe Burrow for that reason. But this not even the same level with Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. But I think Jalen Hurts is more talented. But if you're watching the quarterback position and how it's supposed to be played as far as managing the game, making the right decisions, making the right throws, managing the clock, Jared Goff checks all those boxes. The only thing that Jalen Hurts has is mobility and the tush push. And when you look at that, like, that's not winning you in the Super Bowl.
And prior to all this beef with AJ Brown, an occasional go ball, but Goff has shown he can make pretty much every type of throw. Like he has shown he can make every type of throw. Like, and I love how you mentioned earlier, like his pocket mobility has gotten. You've seen it more like this year, making plays like arm angles in the pocket, moving around. Like you could see Goff even getting better, which is like a whole nother thing. I mean, he's shown a lot. So I would go right now, Jared Goff, best in the NFC. And I got a lot of respect, I will say, for Baker, because Baker, I checked just now, it kind of refreshing, just looking at some of the numbers. And Baker Mayfield's having a good year, man. Credit to him.
No Chris Godwin and Mike Evans for a good chunk of it.
I mean, Baker's up there, and I will say, like, Sam Darnold's up there. But
Sam Darnold's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL this year. Talk to me later about it, but that man has been insane. They've been 10-2. I think he has 28 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. Jared Goff has 25 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. When you look at the offensive line, much different. He's mobile. Like, he's not a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, but we're talking about this season. Well. He's been operating like a top 5 quarterback for sure. And it's like some of the throws, like who'd they play before? I think it was when they played It wasn't the pack. Either way, they had a game recently, and the throws that he was making, it was like, whew.
Yeah.
Like that's like they're talking about re-signing him.
Yeah, and I think they should if you're a Vikings fan. But I think there's guys that have great years, which like we were at this point early with Goff, where it's like, oh yeah, he had a top 5 season, or he had a top 2 in the NFC season. No, he's stacked a ton of these now. Like there's a big sample size of Goff being very productive. You know, like now with Darnold, it's like he's playing really well. It's like, let's see it again.
It's a one-off.
Yeah. It's like, is it or not? With Goff, we've seen him. I mean, he's thrown 30 touchdown passes. How many times in his career? Let me check. He's thrown 30, 1, 2. He's thrown it twice. He's thrown 28.
Last year, he had 29.
Yep, and he had 32 early in his. Like he
has 25 right now.
He's had 4,000 yards in every year but 3. I mean, in 1 year he's 50 away. Like he's like been productive. So
this is how I know this guy in the chat just does never watch football in his life. He said, "We've seen how overrated your O-line has been the last. Like, what are we doing here? I mean, this is the best O-line in the NFL."
Yeah, I think Charles, he's a troll, which like
I love it. Hey, love
by
it.
the way, all fans are welcome. You're just gonna have to come with smoke because there's a lot of Lions fans here, so you're gonna have to come. They're gonna come after you. But no, it's easy. No, O-line is not overrated. It's very clear. You can check the numbers. But we all agree, one of the best in the NFC. Now you are the best in the NFC. Now you have a quarterback matchup this weekend. 1.5. The Lions are favored by 1.5. I checked the sports books today. We'll see if it moves this week, but the Lions are favored at 1.5 at home against the Bills. Jared Goff, Josh Allen. Who, in your guys' opinion, who needs to win this game? Who needs to win this game more? I know both teams do, but who would benefit more from this win this Sunday, in your guys' opinion? And then we'll get into the game, but that's like quick quarterback conversation. Who has the most to gain from Sunday? Josh Allen or Jared Goff?
I mean, most to gain, I would probably say Jared Goff when you're talking about quarterback head-to-head matchups, because even as Lions fans, we can admit, or at least you should be able to admit if you have a sane mind, that Josh Allen is a better player and quarterback than Jared Goff. Well, when you look at where Jared Goff is at right now, the Minnesota Vikings are right on the Detroit Lions' ass for the division. The number 1 seeds are the Philadelphia Eagles. When you look over to the AFC, you can say the Chiefs, but if the Chiefs and the Bills tie with the same record, the Chiefs have the tiebreaker over them right now. The Lions still have to match up with the Vikings, so it's going to be interesting to see how the NFC shows up. So when you look at the narratives, and I understand that the Bills just lost in LA, but when you look at Josh Allen putting up 6 touchdowns, nobody's blaming him for that. Jared Goff, I think if you're able to go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen, even with all the injuries going on that defensive side of the ball, and pull out with the win, I think that's huge because Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, they travel pretty well usually. So when you look at it, it's not a game where it's like, oh, the Bills can't travel, they're not good on the road. No, like whenever Josh Allen lines up, he's going to play good football. The Buffalo Bills are going to play good football. I think he has more to gain than Josh Allen in this week.
Now, I will say real quick before I get into it, Brian Pumper, shout out. Hey, look at Brian Bumper comes in. Real Eagles fan here. Hurts his cheeks. We have to win in spite of this bum. Lions definitely the team to beat. Can't even hate. That is.
Hey, shout out.
Hey, shout out, Brian. And much respect, honestly, for being kind of unbiased. Like, and I'll do. Like I've said, the Eagles. I think the Lions. I would take the Lions in that matchup, but respect there, Brian. Respect there, and appreciate the donation as always, brother. You're the man for that. So thank you for that. That Charles just got dunked on. But I will say, who has the most to gain? I'll go Jared Goff. I think he has the most to gain. I think you have an argument for both, to be fair, but I'm going to go Goff because Goff is, to me, always been underrated. He hasn't really gotten the credit he really does deserve. Now, being on the Lions for his first 2 years hasn't helped. Now they're in the spotlight. They're getting all the praise. But if he beats Josh Allen head-to-head, I know it's a team game, not a quarterback win guy, but if he plays well in that matchup, the narrative for, especially in that game, which everyone's going to be watching, I think it would benefit Jared Goff more. Like Josh, I think if Josh loses, it's like, okay, he's having an incredible year. Yeah, it would stink. We'll see with the MVP. Like maybe some believe he should win it anyway. And I'm not even talking about just for MVP. I'm talking about for the narrative, like just for Goff's legacy. Not that, like they'll induct him into the Hall of Fame for this win, but I think for national media, they'd be like, Goff, hey, maybe we need to start watching a little more Jared Goff. I think it would benefit him more in this game, personally. I think especially with Josh Allen already being established as one of the best quarterbacks in the league, Jared's always that back of the top 10 guy. And if he wins this game and balls out at home, I think it would help him more than Josh Allen. What do you think, Boone?
I mean, I don't think you could have said it any better. I like Jared Goff is like, and I've been dealing with this narrative for like the last 12 months. And it's like it's hard to explain to people like, hey, Jared Goff is actually elite. Like he can't do some of the, he's not the Josh Allen level to where it's like he has the run, the ground game and all this. But the way he plays football and Klotz, it goes back to the quarterback wins thing. Like the man just finds a way to get the job done and win football games. And like he's controlling one of the best offenses in the NFL for basically a third straight season. And I think a game like this, Jeff, like I love your point. Like you play these games, and he's played primetime games all year long. But a game like this, Sunday, 4:00, America's Game of the Week versus another MVP candidate, like you're talking about two guys who are probably going to be finalists. You can finally like shut down some of those narratives. So, like if he goes in there and he outperforms again, like this Bills defense, what Stafford did last week, like if you go out there and you throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and you beat the Bills and you give Josh Allen another loss under his belt this year, that narrative switches really quick, and people are starting to look at Jared Goff and be like, oh no, this guy's legit. Like he is a problem in the NFL. And I think a lot of like big time analysts, the Dan O's and the Lewis Riddicks, like those types of guy, I think they know what Jared is about and what he can do. I just think it's more so like local people, like the Nick Wrights, like those, you have to prove those guys wrong. And like a game like this is where you do it. So I think Jared has the most to prove. I think he can go out there and he can prove and show like the Nick Wrights of the people who have gone at him all year. Hey, this is what I'm about, boys. I think it's a big week for him. It's a big Jared Goff week.
I'm with you. Trey's comment. Shout out Trey. Always tuning in, man. We appreciate you. Goff is great, but he's more of a team quarterback. These other contending quarterbacks carry their teams. Goff doesn't need to.
That's true.
Yes, it is. And that's why, I don't want to get I keep going back to it, but that's why like football is the ultimate team game. So I think it's fair to like point stuff like that out. But one thing I try not to do, even though I'm not a quarterback win guy, but I don't want to like discredit how well someone operates in a situation. You know what I'm like? Jalen Hurts, for example, he's got one of the best wide receiver duos. He's got a very good tight end. He's got a great line. But what does he do? What numbers is he putting up through the air? Yep. Like, so Trey's not wrong, but I don't want to go there and discredit, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard. You still got to put up numbers. You still got to execute, and Goff does that at the top of the NFC. I believe
he's won in LA too. Like it's not like he's won everywhere he's gone, and he did have some down years. But again, it's the same.
Packers, they couldn't run the ball. He drops back 40+ times, plays well, plays excellent.
He has found a way to win games every different way. Like he has thrown the ball, he's handed the ball off. He's been able to throw the deep pass. Like that's been a criticism. He's proven that wrong with JMO. Like there are a lot of things with Jameson with Jared Goff where you can criticize. I think he's proven all of it wrong. And you could say, oh, you could put this guy in this situation. This guys, every single quarterback, maybe outside, and I'll stay true to this, outside of the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, instead of those guys, like you have to every quarterback, Tom Brady, like you have to have a great situation around you to win football games. No quarterback in the NFL can go win a Super Bowl solely on their own, besides maybe a Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Cannot happen. Like Tom Brady's always needed people. Peyton Manning, like these guys all needed the right pieces around them to be able to go execute. It's the same thing with Jared Goff. Like if you want to say that with Jared Goff, okay, we could say that about a lot of the greats as well. Like they needed a great running backs. They needed great receivers, a great O-line. They needed a defense. Like think about Tom Brady, the defenses that he had on the other side of him with Bill Belichick. Like he needed that. Like this is not a rocket science type thing. Like to me, when people say that, like, oh, you have everything around you, like that's a cop out with you not wanting to break down the situation and say, hey, how good is Jared Goff actually? You guys see what I'm saying? You catching my drift here?
Catching it, Boone.
Yep. Sorry, I was just updating some things. We're gonna get top 10.
I see you're changing your top 10. What are you changing your top 10 for?
It wasn't mine. Well, I'll tell you what.
Klotz is switching mid-show. I feel like it should be
it was earlier.
It was earlier. Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say I feel like it's one of those things where like 8 o'clock hits, boom, locked in. No movement.
And Trey says, since the other MVP quarterbacks carry their teams, they get a lot more press and media attention. That's all I'm saying. And Trey, you're right. I mean, you see Josh have 6 touchdowns, 3 rushing. Like, yeah. I guess to Trey's point, I think what Goff does isn't like the average viewer. It's not like appealing to the eye. Like, Josh like running around for 82 yards and throwing, like, people like watching that. Goff is more like traditional drop back quarterback, pocket quarterback. Like even Joe Burrow, it's like the aura, like Joe's, that's even though Joe's very excellent, but that's like Joe's a traditional drop back guy, but like, and Joe's very good. But Joe's a little more younger. Like Goff's not like a media, like he's not in front of the media. Like he's not like all over television. He's just he's old school. He fits Detroit. So I do agree with Trey. He doesn't really get a ton of publicity, except here locally. We love him. But all right, I want to ask you guys before we get to top 10, because we'll get to our top 10 teams before we at about 9:30. What do you think about the line? -1.5. Lions favored it. It
moved.
It
opened up at 2.5 last week. As soon as the Packers game was done.
Oh, it did. It did.
I checked it the night of the Packers game, and it was at 2.5. So it's moved a little bit.
It did move
at home.
Yep, Lions. Let me see. It's still
means
there.
if they're in Buffalo, they're probably dogs.
Yeah, -1.5.
I love it. You know what?
And they're -130 on the money line. -130.
I'm putting responsibly a lot of everything I have in my sports book account on money line.
Everything I have.
That money line. When do you ever get the Lions -130 money line?
Well, the over under is 54.5. I like that number too. 54.5.
The over, yeah, I don't hate it. I think the Lions defense steps up a little bit here, boys.
You do? Okay.
There's something that when Dan spoke the other day, and I haven't heard this point from anyone in the radio and anyone in shows around the city of Detroit. Dan brought up a good point, fellas. This defense with these guys, like I said it yesterday, like they're getting another week under their belt with this scheme and AG and this defense. You know what I mean? Like they're adding a whole nother week of like, I know they gave up 30 last week, but there was like so many one-offs, but they looked good in spots. Like they were getting pressure. The secondary was decent. Like there were just certain spots where they slipped up. Another week with like Jamal Adams having like another week of practice and film. Quan Alexander getting another week of film. Like even the linebackers and defensive linemen who are filling in, who were just practice squad guys, like Mitchell Agude. Or no, is it Isaac Uku or Agude who got moved up? I think Agude, another one. Like these guys are getting more practice and another week under their belt. Like they're going to be better than last week. This defense will be. And like a guy like Jamal Adams, who literally had 4 days of practice, if that, think about now he has 2 weeks of practice with 10 days off. And there we go. That's why, Jeff, I don't know about the over. I don't know.
Okay.
You know who else is getting better though, Boone? Tim Patrick. You thought two touchdowns were impressive. Wait till you see. It's going to be a Tim Patrick, Mac Hollins show on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I would love Klotz to learn,
Mac Hollins,
is the up down theory, because. I mean,
hey, thank you, Boo. Thank you.
This is one of those. These are one of those moments, and I love it so much. And early in my gambling career, this is one of those moments where I would say, "Oh my gosh, Tim Patrick 2 touchdowns. They're going to go at him like, oh, he's here." Like I have friends who do it to me all the time. We'll be like, "Dude, next week Tim Patrick," and then there's like 4 straight weeks of no touchdown.
Hey,
up down theory, like a guy like that, a second, third guy, typically if he scores 1 week, he's probably not the next week.
He's getting
maybe it's you know who it is next week?
4.
Klotz, if we're being honest and we're just being smart people like ball knowers, which
he's gonna get 2 catches for 40 yards.
All right, that's fine. Hear me out though. Who it is next week? It's Amon-Ra St. Brown week next week.
Bingo. That's exactly.
Hey, take a little deeper, Klotzy. Let's get another stamp on your ball knower
relax.
Think a little deeper. And Klotz is like, Brock Wright.
Yeah. I will give Klotzy credit. The 1 week that Brock Wright scored, that was like the one random week where Klotz was
both of them.
Both of them.
He did. Well, the second one I do not count because every week after that you were like Brock Wright. You can't say it every week. No, you can't. I discredit that instantly. It's like the Terrion Arnold thing. When Terrion gets an interception, you guys can celebrate all you want. You guys said it every week. So there's no like, oh my gosh.
That was me. I was up.
I won't give you that credit.
I was.
You'll lose the credit at some point. The first one, Klotz, the Brock Wright, you get all of that because that you didn't say it all year, and then boom, you said it, touchdown. I was like, whoa. Second one now.
That second week, what did I tell you to bet? And then what did you bet? Brock Wright anytime touchdown on the stream. I told you, I was like, Brock Wright, it's happening.
But you were saying that every week. But I did hit on that. We did look.
No. At that point, that was early. That was when he wasn't saying it.
No. We're talking about when we were at the place in what is it called? Oh, it was such a great spot. I want to go back there.
The garage.
By where you live,
like
Jeff.
Oh,
Naps. Naps was unbelievable, by the way. We had to go back there. But when we were there mid-game, and actually, Klotz, it wasn't all you. It was Jeff all game kept saying Brock Wright. And then he looked at me and was like, Brock Wright
I can't
catch?
get anything.
No, dude, Jeff knows it. Jeff looked at me and said, Brock Wright catch. And I was like, no, let's not do it. And then I went and said on air.
I was making fun of Klotzy.
You put it in my head, and I went and said on air, and I looked at Caleb. I go, I'm going Brock Wright.
Klotzy reached me, and I was trolling Klotzy, and it ended up working out.
Okay, so it does.
I won't even claim that as like a ball knower. Like I was like ahead of the game or nothing like that. I was probably like Brock Wright, like Klotz does, and he actually got a catch. Oh yeah, why not? They're gonna need
Brock.
They're gonna need backups. They're gonna need everyone, all hands on deck. Why not? Before we get to top 10, do you guys see that Diggity Dog? Do you all see Mark Gastineau demanding his sack back from Brett Favre?
Yeah, I don't really care.
Gastineau?
To me, it's such a nothing burger. I mean, I really don't care. I keep seeing these videos.
He wants one last limelight
it's
moment.
The most random shit.
He was at like a card show and called out. Yeah. Brett walked up to Brett Favre. It's like, dude, like. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, just give it up.
He was at the game where the record was broken and was giving Michael Strahan a hug. I saw a picture. And it's like, why didn't you say something then? Like, I'm pretty sure. Or he was at a game. Was like, you should have been said something if you thought it was a problem. Why wait 20 years?
Yeah, that was weird. I will say this about the game before we move on here. I think it'll be more offensive. I think it'll be like it'll come down to like situational defensive plays, kind of like the turnovers, red zone, kind of like what we talked about last week. I think it's a similar type of game. That's why I think Dan, there's a high likelihood he does go for it. Maybe not 5 times, but there'll be a situation where maybe you're in the red zone and it's 4th down. Like I would rather Dan go for it than kick that field goal. I really do believe. I think it's going to be that type of game. Like I'll be yelling on the stream, go for it, go for it. Because that's really how I think it'll go. I mean, the Lions, I like them at -1.5. I mean, you're giving me a 1.5 here. I think the Lions win by at least a field goal, so I think they cover that. So I'll take the free money there. Not literally, gamble responsibly, but I'll take that 1.5. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know about the over/under just because I think it could go either way here. I do like that.
Yeah, it's like 2 knockout punchers fighting. It could go like the distance. I don't know. It's just like 2 of the same type of thing sometimes don't equal that thing you're expecting. Like 2 offensive teams, everyone's expecting shootout. Watch it be like, 24-20 or something like that. Who knows?
Just want to throw this out there too. Again, I want to caveat this with I trust in Dan Campbell. I'm all in on every decision I've been one of the original guys with Dan Campbell the last 3 or 4 years.
And caveat. What's the caveat?
Never wavered. And for people who say, oh, Booner, it's easy to say you didn't like that call when they don't get it. Before they even went for it and before they ran the play, I looked at Jeff and the guys on the live show and said, that third quarter one, and I'm like looking around and I'm like, am I the only one? You probably go on the stream. Am I the only one that's like, let's not do this, Dan?
Yeah, we're winning. I was like, I hate the
we're
play
winning.
call.
We're winning the game. We're winning the punt it, pin them at the 1, and just win the game. That was the only one. Jeff, I'm with you. I would love for him to keep being aggressive. Inside your 50, around the 50, the 40, 30, 20, all of those, 4th down. Jake Bates, hey, take the week off. Or just extra points, all right? Extra 4th down, though, you go for it all, especially when these teams. But, hey, if you're up and you're winning the football game and you're backed up inside your 30, let's just say, hey, we have one of the best punters in the NFL. Let's punt the ball. Let's pin them. Pin him inside the 5.
How about it, Boone? I can't hate it. I can't
That's
hate
me. Strategically, and I'm with Dan again. This
Art,
isn't me.
hey,
this
in
this
or
is
out?
me. This
In
is
or out?
I'm in. But again, Jeff, if he would have gotten that and they would have gotten that, I would still have been like, that was the most risky. Like Dan's done a lot. I still would have been like, whoa, dude. You
Whoa, dude. Whoa, dude.
Whoa.
All right. Not saying, and I don't, to be fair, I don't think Dan's gonna like go for it every time if they get 4th down on their 30. But like late in the ball game,
That
maybe
was
there's a
up
situation.
3 though. That's where it just gets me. Like if you were down, like if you like, I'm desperate, we need to go down. Okay, up 3, where it's like
Knockout. The knockout.
to where like you don't get it. All they
That's
have
what
to
you
do,
want.
they're in field goal range already to tie the game. Like you're automatically being like, tie the game. That was where I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Yeah,
This is what living on the edge is like. Woo,
Hey.
love it.
on the stream. Hey, on the stream, we're all in. We're all in.
I got home that night in that game. Me mad about that one play call, and my cousins that I live with were like, you were mad, and I was like, yeah, I was not happy. I'll say that. Threw me off a little bit.
It's all right. And then you came back the next day. You said I didn't like it, but I trust Dan Campbell.
Okay, not to like things, right? Like you don't have to like everything
Well,
Dan
well,
does, but I
Booner
trust him with
path.
all of my heart. I've said it. The Booner path is like Dan Campbell's at the head of it. 300. Who's the guy? Leonardo or whatever his name is.
Leonidas.
Leonidas. That's Dan Campbell on the front of the Booner path. Oh my gosh. Is Roman listening? Can we get Dan Campbell in like a 300 shirt or 300 suit with like the players behind him in the 300 gear?
That's it.
Nah,
If there's anyone that
That
can do that, it's him for sure.
Dude, that shirt,
Like him as Leonidas.
that would go crazy, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Ready for battle.
Yeah, it's like a lion. It'd be like next to him or something. It's like a pet, like on like a leash or something.
Oh my
I used to
gosh.
be.
With
I
that
used-
gear, the helmet and the pads. Oh,
Movie used to scare the shit out of me when I was a kid.
That
Great
movie-
movie. Great movie.
Great.
I waited for a little bit to watch the yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah,
My
that
older
movie-
brothers and stuff loved it, and I'm like a little kid, like, whoa, this is crazy, dude.
Yeah, like this is the
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, honestly, one of the greatest movies. That is a legendary movie. So I'm with you there. Maybe Roman is listening. Maybe we'll talk to him tomorrow. Maybe we'll tell him. That's a good idea.
We can get in contact with Goat.
All right, let's get to our top 10 because it is top 10 Tuesday, top 10 Toxic Tuesday, however you want to frame it.
No toxicity. Not today.
I'll see Boone.
Could be.
You go first? I'll go last.
All right, I'll go first.
Okay.
Top 10.
Top 10. FA. What you got, kid? What
All
you
right,
got?
here's mine. Let me talk to you for a second. All right, here's my top 10. I'm going to be honest. I checked. I compared our last week's. Not too far off for a lot of us. So I think it'll be similar, honestly. I sound okay, by the way?
Yeah.
All right, number 1. Actually, we'll start at the back. Seattle Seahawks at number 10. I think Seattle's playing well. They beat the Cardinals 2 times in the last 3 weeks. We just were talking about the Cardinals being a gritty team. I got to reward them for that. They're in the lead for their division, NFC West, and I think Seattle's playing a lot better. Their defense, they're starting to figure it out now, playing a lot better. They still have the weapons they have. They didn't even have Kenneth Walker, and Zach Charbonnet played well. Like I like what the Seahawks are doing, so they've earned a spot on my top 10. Number 9, I have the Chargers. Close game with the Chiefs. They're still a very good team. I don't think they even moved on my list. I think they're still 9. I'm going to keep them there. Number 8, the Baltimore Ravens. They had a bye week, right? Yeah, bye week. So they didn't even play. So not going to move them. They're 8. 7, the Vikings. I'm going to keep the Vikings behind the Packers because look at both scenarios. The Packers took the Lions down to literally the last couple plays, like the 4th down decision. The Vikings lit up a Falcons team, which defensively is absolute ass cheeks. So, like, again, the Vikings are playing well. They look sexy, but look at their schedule. It's not that impressive, in my
I do
opinion.
notice you bumped them up 2 spots this week, though. I do
Yes, I did. I did. Number 6, the Green Bay Packers.
Nothing sexy, just the grind.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I do think Vikings are between. Remember we talked about this last week. I think 7 through 9 is kind of like.
Yeah, it's all the same tier.
Yeah, I bumped them up. I just want to make it clear I'm respecting what they're doing, but they're not.
Love that. That's all.
They won't.
That's all I've been trying to say.
They won't move.
All I've been trying to say with the Vikings. Sorry.
And I think honestly, boys, in about 2 weeks, we'll probably have them at 10. We'll see what happens with these next 2 games because they got some tough games coming up. Number 6, the Packers. I kind of explained. Yeah, I mean the Packers took the Lions down. I still think they're a really good team, so I'm going to keep them where they're at. The top 5 to me, boys, I did not change a thing. Now, what I will say is the thing I did contemplate doing is Eagles, Steelers. I contemplated putting the Steelers above the Eagles, but when I look at that potential matchup this weekend, I think it's going to be close.
No George Pickens.
I'm going to give the edge to the Eagles right now because they still have a win over Baltimore. You know, I get it. The Steelers, they beat the Browns. It's like, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, welcome to the club. Everyone's whooping on them. So I'm going to leave it where they are. And then the top 3 to me doesn't really change. So that's where I'm at, keeping my top 10. Well, I added the Seahawks in there. But
that's an interesting one to me. I'm just going to be honest.
Yep.
The Seahawks.
Also, they beat the 49ers with Nick Bosa and with Christian McCaffrey. I have
Who's the quarterback?
Brock Purdy.
I think Brandon Allen, whatever his name is.
Brock Purdy, McCaffrey, Jawan Jennings, Debo. Yeah, I mean, that's not bad. I look at the rest of their wins, though. It's like their losses, like they played the Lions, lost. They lost to the Giants. They lost to the 49ers earlier in the year. They lost to the Bills. They lost to the Rams. It just feels like any contending team that they've played, they've lost to. Like their wins are versus the Broncos, Patriots, Dolphins.
Broncos a good win.
Yeah, that was like the week 1 though. So that was early. That was Bo Nick's first NFL game, and then the Cardinals twice and the Jets. So it's like just every time, and I always look at that's how I kind of look at some of these teams. It's just like I look at hey, when you played a contending team, how do you look? And then I also line it up to where it's like if they go head to head, like if the Seahawks went head to head to some teams that are probably 11, 12 on your list, I personally think they would lose. Like that's just me.
Well, they did the Cardinals and beat them twice.
Yeah, I don't have the Cardinals in my top 10 though.
No, I'm saying you said if they went head to head. Oh, you're talking about top 10. You said
I'm saying
11, 12, 13.
Yeah, like I don't think I have the Cardinals in my top 12 if I did a 12. But if I was just so I can rearrange my list, like the Seahawks, the reason spoiler, I don't have them in my top 10. It's because I matched them up with another team and I was like, they would lose instantly to that team.
I mean, my argument is always going to stand where it is. I don't really mind the Seahawks at 10, but I don't see how you look at the Kansas City Chiefs and say that they would beat the Philadelphia Eagles or Pittsburgh Steelers.
I think so.
Playing right now. I think when you look at the Chiefs, they keep winning games. When you look at the Chargers, 19-17, and there was no Lad McConkey in that game. The Chargers or the Raiders, 19-17, 2-point win. Panthers, 3-point win. When they played the Bills, they lost by 9. When they played the Broncos, they won by 2. When they played the Buccaneers with no Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, they won by 6. And when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're better than all those teams. And if you want to say they keep winning and look at the records, over the last 8 weeks, do you know what the Kansas City Chiefs are? 7-1. Do you know what the Philadelphia Eagles are? They're 8-0. Do you know what the Pittsburgh Steelers are? They're 7-1. So if you want to go off records, that's fine. But if you look over the last 2 months of the NFL season, there's a very good argument you can make for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Eagles to be above the Chiefs.
I will say this, the Eagles, I'm not going to argue, but with the Steelers, Klotz, the only thing, and I'll let Jeff give his argument on it. I just think if there's any team in the NFL, maybe 2 teams with the Lions that you're really don't care about how much they win by. They're just they have the talent, they have the coaching, they have the quarterback to win the game at hand. If you told me they matched up this week, who are you betting on? I'm betting on the Chiefs. That's just a fact.
I just disagree.
And it's they're finding ways to win the games, and it's not because of it's because they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. If you've watched these games down the stretch, the reason they beat the Chargers is because they get the stop down the stretch. Andy Reid's time management, they don't allow the Chargers to get the ball back, and they've done this with every game that you just named. They don't allow and they slice your throat. You're done. And they get if they need it's 3rd down and they're we need a 1st down to end the game. They get it 10 times out of 10 times. And it's like that's where it's like the Chiefs are just too experienced. They have the MVP, like the best quarterback in the NFL. They have Andy Reid, Spagnuolo on the defensive side. It's like
So
matchups.
why I gave them, because remember last week I had the Eagles 3, Chiefs 4. So that's how I had. But the reason why I swapped them this week is Kansas City beat a Chargers team that I do think is good. And the Eagles barely scraped by a Panthers team. So like I'm basing it off a week-to-week thing. I actually don't hate the Chiefs are winning in very odd ways, but I think with the cachet they have, I'm going to give the edge to them. They've won the last 2 Super Bowls. So like it's tough. I get it, but they haven't lost. You know what I'm saying? Well, they have, but not in a while. So I'm going to stick with the Chiefs here. That's why I made that argument. If the Eagles beat the Panthers by like 2-3 touchdowns, I'd probably keep it the way it was.
What's crazy, Klotz, I could correct me if I'm wrong. First 4 or 5 weeks of the season, I was arguing with you because you were like, these teams have these guys, and that was why you had them in your top 3. Now you've switched, and you're like, I don't care who they have. They're just sneaking games by. But like for me, it's like the Chiefs eventually
don't look the same.
And
they don't.
They don't, but like they're still one of the scariest teams in football. Like
that's why
they're going to find a way to win every game they're in. Every game.
Well, and real quick, because I'll let you guys because I'm going to put up your guys' list, but I just want to add this real quick. The Seahawks, I want to add this last point. I'm curious. The 10th spot, a little shaky. I'm going to put the Seahawks there. And the reason why I wanted to add this point, the team that they played, to your point about 11-12, like the Rams, for example, they played the Rams and it was an overtime loss. So I think they're kind of on that level, in my opinion. Like I think 10, you can argue a couple different teams. Like the Broncos, I actually debated keeping. I'm just going with how they're playing. Like that's a part of my list, and 4 straight wins. I'm going to put the Seahawks in there, but that's my list. So I'll get to your guys' list. I'll get to Klotz. I'll get to Klotz's list, and then you can go now. Here's and I got your
list.
I got
your real list.
Hey, talk to me, Klotzy. By the way, I didn't do this the first time, but I'm gonna go ahead and do this so you can kind of cook here. So talk to me, Klotzy.
All right, there we go. So list, I'm pretty sure if I am correct, this is the same teams that I had last week, but just different order. Commanders were on a bye week. But then when you look at it, I think you got to move up the Minnesota Vikings. Chargers also on a bye, but they lost to the Chiefs off a double doink, so I'm not going to penalize them too much. So the Washington Commanders, Chargers, like I said, they lost off a double doink, so I'm not going to penalize them. And the Minnesota Vikings, with how they looked with Sam Darnold against a team in Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons, who have Drake London, who have Bijan Robinson, who have Tyler Algier, that's not a scrub team. And you look at how Sam Darnold picked them apart, how Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson both were able to go off, and then they still managed to not let Kirk Cousins throw a touchdown in a quote-unquote revenge game. I've been dogging the Minnesota Vikings a lot, but I'm going to tip my hat at them at this week. I don't think they're going to get much higher than 8, but right now I think that's the perfect team to have at number 8. Number 7 is the Baltimore Ravens. Not much has changed with them. I think when you look at them, they're a good team. They can play like they're elite sometimes, but when it comes down to it, I hate their defense. They give up way too many yards. They don't get to the quarterback enough. They don't make enough plays in the secondary. Kyle Hamilton is great, but as a whole, I don't know what it is in Baltimore. That defense just is not it. It's not that typical John Harbaugh defense going on in Baltimore right now. So they're number 7. Number 6, kind of like you said, Jeff, the Green Bay Packers. They lost the Lions, but the Lions are the number 1 team. And the Packers, just with how they've been looking over the last month of the season, losing to the Lions by, 3 points, whatever it was, I'm not going to be mad at it. They're still a very good team, but I still think they're a tier below the rest of this top 5 teams. For me, like I said, the Kansas City Chiefs, to me, would lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, if George Pickens would be out, that's huge, but I'm not going to act like I said, the Steelers and the Eagles over the last 8 weeks, they've been playing just as good as the Kansas City Chiefs. The Eagles playing a little bit better if you're going off the record of it, and they just have more players. And I think when you look at it in the regular season, if they were to match up, I like what both of these teams can do to compare to Kansas City. Kansas City obviously has a Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame quarterback. When you look at Pittsburgh, they have a Hall of Fame coach, future Hall of Fame quarterback, and they have a lot of experience on that defense as well with TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, a lot of those guys. I think they'd have enough to be able to get past this voodoo magic that the Chiefs have right now in the NFL with the ways that they're winning games. I'm going to give them credit for winning games. That's why they're my top 5. But when you look at number 5 compared to the rest of these teams, I think there's a difference in how they're being played. Philadelphia obviously didn't look this good against this week against Carolina, but I still think that's a team that's going to be solid through the rest of the year. But I think when you look at Buffalo, when you look at Detroit, they're in a tier of their own. So this is my top 10 for this week. Not much has changed. I just moved the Steelers up a little bit, and I moved Philly down, and I kind of messed around with the 8 through 10 spot. But this is my top 10, boys. Kind of jumped around there, but
No, that's fine. Hey,
after what you guys were saying.
let's get Boone's through, and then we can kind of discuss them, compare them, anything you guys kind of disagree with here. So I'll go ahead and we'll put Boone's up on the screen here. Let me see, and then Boone, I'll let you cook here. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much difference. Then I mean, there's probably one team on here that will shock. I think we all have pretty much the same thing. My top 5 is the same top 5 as last week. Lions, Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, Steelers. I didn't move that at all. I think that's a good top 5 again. And I don't even want to get into the argument with the Chiefs, Eagles, Steelers. Like if you want to move them around, I guess it just depends on how you look at it. Packers 6, Vikings 7, and Ravens 8. I think I had the same exact. I think I had the same top 8 this last week, to be honest. And then 9, I have the Chargers. I threw in the Rams this week, boys.
Oh, I hate it. I almost did it.
I threw them in, and I mean, you could have said the Broncos. I had the Broncos last week. They had a bye week. My thought process with the Rams is what I saw them do versus the Bills, who was my number 2 team in the NFL right now. I do take that into account a lot when I do my list. It's, hey, if you're beating teams that are in my top 5, like you're obviously a top 10 team. I think this, them beating the Bills, and then like Jeff, you had the Seahawks. Like the Rams took care a couple of weeks ago. They took care of business versus the Seahawks. This Rams team
overtime. I mean, let's not say took care.
You could caveat it with overtime. They still won the football game. Like,
they did. They did.
Like, you're acting like I'm telling
you
a lie.
What do you say?
Took care of.
Business.
What does it mean if you beat a team? Taking care of them. You beat them, right? Klotz, am I wrong?
No. Yeah,
so there was no reason for that comment, Jeff. Let me finish my list here. Thank you very much.
Bro's trying to cancel you.
Yeah, he instantly was like, "Take care." What are we talking about? Like, no, yeah, they beat.
Kind of like the Cardinals took care of the. Are we talking about that team, the Rams?
That's fair. That was week 1 again. That or week 1 or week 2. So I'm just looking at like
you're
gonna let me finish my argument with the Rams. Okay. Are you gonna keep? What are we doing here now?
Go on.
All right. Or am I good to go? All right.
You're clear, bro.
Rams have won 6 of their last 8 games. Jeff Iafrate. They beat the Vikings, who are in my top 10. They beat the Seahawks, who are in your top 10. They did lose to the Eagles, but then this last week they followed it up, or they actually beat the Saints last week, but they followed that up with a big-time win over the Buffalo Bills, who are number 2 on my list. So they have won some big football games. They've also lost to the Eagles. That's one of their losses. But they have beat 2 teams in my top 10, 1 team in my top 2. So I give them credit for that. And right now they're playing really good football. That offense seems unstoppable. Defensively, they're starting to figure a little bit out. Obviously, you can't stop Josh Allen. So giving up 40 points to Josh Allen, like, what are you going to do? But I just think this team right now, and again, like, this is one of those things where it's like 10, 11, 12, 13. You could, like, to me, it's like Rams, Seahawks, Commanders, Broncos, like Chargers. Like, all right, you can intertwine those and move them around all you want. It's when you're from like 9 to 12, it's essentially the same thing, in my opinion. It's just you start looking at who beat who, what are the wins that some of these. It's like when you do the college football playoff rankings. What wins do they have? Did they beat them straight up? Like things like that. So that's how I look at this, and I come up with the Chargers and the Rams 9 and 10.
I don't hate it. I like the Rams. I'm just giving you crap because you came at me a little bit for my 10, so I had to.
Well, I came at you because you were 10 because I knew I had the Rams at 10. So I was like, okay.
I love the kumbaya 10, 11, 12 can be exchanged. But we waited till you went to say that. But
I had to set my Rams take up. I knew what I had coming, so I had to set my list up.
We honestly, Boone, last week we had a different list. This week I moved the Vikings up. We pretty much have the same top 9.
Yeah.
Because I moved the Vikings up because they blew out the Falcons. I like the Falcons before the year, so I put some respect on that. Moved them up a spot.
I mean, people could make the argument because didn't the Vikings beat the Packers?
They did, but early in the year, are we count now? We're counting.
I don't know. I just think head. No, I think head to head. I think you could. I don't know. You could make an argument. It's tough. I mean, it's tough because, like, if you're a Vikings fan, like, if I was a Lions fan and if I was in the situation as the Vikings and I joined our stream and I'm like, like every week. Like, why do you guys keep putting like the Packers are like they've lost games and like one of their losses is literally like if you want to talk about head to head, like we literally beat the Packers. Like that would be my argument. It's like, yeah, I guess that's fair. Like when you guys went head to head, who was the better team? Vikings clearly came out, and they've only lost 2 games all year. Like it's hard to, I don't know. That's why I'm sitting here a little bit like I should have had the Vikings above the Packers. I don't know.
Why didn't you, Boone?
They play in what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, again.
Yeah.
Guess who I'm going with? I'm picking the Packers.
You're probably picking the Packers.
So
I think Bears I don't know, because the Bears, they really shit the bed with the new coach.
They got worse.
Yeah, they somehow got worse, but I'm interested to see if they rebound. And they play Monday Night Football against the Vikings, so I hope somehow that the Bears can manage to pull a miracle off.
I was saying, can we just have this conversation quickly, because we watched games on Sundays together this last Sunday. It is incredible, and I mean like incredible, how the Detroit Lions just have gotten zero help from any teams around the NFL. Zero. Like nothing. Xavier Legette dropping the ball at the 1 for a touchdown, essentially. I'm just being honest. And the Packers just or the Vikings just somehow continually they just keep finding a way to win games. It's like, man, can we get help from anyone? Like, give us a break, man.
You know who's gonna help them out?
I mean, I think every week someone's gonna help them out, and it never works out. So I'm not gonna get my hopes up anymore.
Early,
just win 4.
I'm calling the shot early. You know who's gonna help them out? The team that screwed this franchise over from making the playoffs 2 years ago.
Seahawks.
In 2 weeks, Vikings, Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are going to beat the Vikings. I do. So
we'll love that.
Put that on the calendar. They're going to get back. It's like return the favor. Hey, sorry, we beat the Rams. You guys were out. But here you go. We'll beat the Vikings.
I truly just hate, and I hate the fact that I have to look at these graphics that the NFL releases every week of the clinching scenarios. And like, yes, we just clinched the playoffs.
There's 1,000 things in there, though.
But the thing, the clinching scenarios for teams to win the division over the last 2 weeks, and the Lions just sitting there with a 2-loss team behind them and a 3-loss team behind them, and you're like, yeah, we have to wait till week 17 to have a clinching, like a divisional clinch. Like, we can't clinch the division because the Vikings refuse to lose. Like, we might have to go into week 18 and win that game to clinch. Like, that's what's crazy. And you're going to have 14, 15 wins.
No, it might come down to the last game. It's
insane, dude.
I don't know. And that to me is I don't want to be content
that, and then going into a playoff game the next week. Like, if you lose, that is a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Trust circle. The content in me would be yeah, that'd be a great content. But the football fan, hell no.
Dude, I do not want that. That's why I'm saying I hate seeing these graphics. And we just I would love right now for it's if the Lions won this week, they clinched the division. That would be unbelievable to have that in week 15. Unreal, dude.
Yeah. I think Dan didn't even know until TJ Lang told him, and he clinched a playoff spot. He didn't even know.
Dude, week by week, that man just does not care. He's just
TJ Lang's
congrats time.
Clinching the playoffs. He's like, what? He's like, are you kidding me? And he's like, no, yeah, he clinched the playoffs. He's like, it's pretty cool. He doesn't even he doesn't even pay attention to that shit. It's not you think you have a guy be like, hey man, we clinched. At the end, hey, good stuff. We clinched. He didn't even know. He's just, hey, all about ball. That's all he cares about.
I feel that's a good thing. That's what you want your head coach to just focus on what's in front of you. I love that out of Dan. How about that, huh, Dan? I've said it a million times, boys. I'll say it again. Dan, you coach the football team. I'll worry about the Booner path and leading the people. Yeah. I will handle that. You just worry about football. We will handle the front lines.
Yeah, what'd you say? Put the pressure on me.
Yeah. Hey, put it all on me. I want all the pressure. All of it.
Yeah. Yep. You heard Booner quote, put it all on him.
The Booner path, the people behind the Booner path, the people in the chat, we'll all take it. All right?
Wow. Yeah.
No Diddy.
I think the chat would back that. I wonder if the chat would back that up.
No, they would. Yeah, no, we're all.
You guys all take it. Man. Yeah. Michael says the Bears beating the Bears beating the Vikings this week. I love the enthusiasm. I really do. I really do love it. I don't know what Michael, and maybe that's hope. If it's hope, tell me. If that's what you honestly, it's just Michael's like, hey, I don't have any proof. It's just hope. If any football reason they would beat the Packers, or excuse me, the Vikings, I don't got one. I really don't. I don't have a reason. Wish I did. I think the Bears. You know what's messed up? They fired their OC. They made their passing game coordinator OC, and then they fired their head coach and made that guy the head coach. So now he's head coach, OC, pass game coordinator. Like there's not enough offensive staff members. Like the guy's like,
it's literally just a shit show.
It's a shit show. The guy's doing like 4 jobs. Like, of course, I don't know, whatever. All right. Anakin says, Mailbag, how many one possession games have the Lions won getting the final possession? I don't even know Anakin, what do you mean by that?
How many one possession games have the Lions won getting the final possession? So how many one score games when they went down and closed the game?
Well,
so
Houston won.
Bates, Minnesota last week. That's this year. I think that's all, to be honest.
I think that's 3 because
we'd remember a walk-off touchdown.
Rams, no, they won by 1 possession. Cardinals was 1
possession.
possession.
I guess, Rams overtime.
Oh, Rams.
Yeah, so that's
there
4.
we go. Yeah. Vikings, Texans, Packers.
Yeah, there's a handful. There's a handful, Anakin. There's a handful.
Does the Bears count?
No,
they had the last possession. Yeah, they had the last possession.
Naba Music Studio. Sorry, fellas, just joined the chat late. By the way, it's all good, brother. He says, I can't see the Ben Johnson going to Cincinnati. The owner is absolutely pathetic when it comes to spending money. I think it's either Jacksonville or Miami. Jacksonville is fucking...
Miami would kind of be...
That's a tough job, Jacksonville, dude.
Miami's a good one.
Sniff Jacksonville.
Can we just think about the coaches who have gone to Miami? Like they
I think if there's a coach to succeed though, like Joe Philbin wasn't succeeding. Like it's Joe fucking Philbin, bro. Who else did they have?
Saban.
Yeah, they had Saban.
Saban talked about it on McAfee the other day. Like he was like, dude, like, and they were actually talking about it with Ben Johnson, the situation with Ben, and he was like, listen, in the NFL, like what young coaches don't realize is like sometimes it's easy to take a quick job and be like, oh, I'd love to do. Like he was like, no, you need to go in. Like the only way to be successful in the NFL and not lose your job is to make sure there's good ownership, there's good, players, you have a coaching staff. And he was like, the number one thing as well is that you have a quarterback. And he's like, if you don't have a quarterback, and you're done. And he was like, even in like Miami, he mentioned, he was like, another thing he said too was like draft picks. Like you have to make sure you have draft picks so you can build a team. And he was like, he went into Miami. They traded all their draft picks. They were like $70 million in the hole in cap space. They had no cap space, and he didn't have a quarterback. And he was like, there was nothing I could do. He was like, I coached them to whatever it was, 10 wins. Like he was like, we had a winning season, but after that, it was over because when guys start leaving, you have all your vets. I think that's the same thing with Ben. Like, dude, be smart. Like Miami is at the. I don't know.
Yeah, like Tua's like a concussion away from potentially retiring.
Like, do you trust the quarterback? How many picks does Miami like? Have they traded picks away for like, I don't know, Tyreek Hill? They made the trade for Tyreek Hill, like
Chubbsters, Bradley Chubb, but they had
so like, what do the assets look like? Like it's like there's all of that. Like, do you have same thing with Jacksonville? And like it's just all of those. Like, what are your assets looking like?
Hey, Dolphins owner is a Michigan alumni, isn't he?
He is, yep.
So you think he's probably dialed in? He'll probably want Ben, but if they fire Mike, but I don't think Ben. I'm with you. I don't know if Miami would be like.
And remember, they just had that whole like thing too, like a year ago, with Brian Flores. Remember where they were like trying to pay guys to get Sean Payton there with Tom Brady, like just being really sneaky about it. They just really, it's a weird place.
Yeah, Stephen Ross. That's who it is. Thanks, Reese D. All right, we got questions here. Ryan Gibson, Mailbag. Any of the defensive players coming back soon? I know. What do you think, Boone? I'll let you cook on this one. What do you?
I mean, Dan said Germ is maybe 2 weeks out. They said Germ potentially. The Levi O and the Josh Pascal. I think they were off today, so there was no injury report. So no update on that. Aleem is in the concussion protocol. So I mean, I'm sure we'll know tomorrow or Thursday on that. IR guys. They said Anzo is probably just the end of the year. Am I missing anyone else? Ennis Rakestraw, his time's up in like 2 weeks. So they said they'll
same kind of ordeal. He's on IR still. So
they said within the next week or two, their time's up. So they'll reevaluate those guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any like major ones that are coming back within the next week or two, though.
Yeah, no.
Just Levi O and Josh Pascal, those guys, and Liam. DJ Reader, Trey asked DJ Reader. I would think DJ Reader's back. His was
like that too.
Yeah, if they played Sunday this last week, I think DJ Reader would have played, and then 10 days off. You would think that he's going to be back more than 10 days because he didn't play last game, so he essentially had 15 plus days off.
Let me bring up these last two here. Shift God, Mailbag. When's the earliest you think we can potentially clinch the division? Do you know that, Boone?
I don't. I mean, it just depends on how the Vikings play. Like, if the Vikings drop a game, my guess would be what are we in? Week
if
15?
Lions win and they drop one, is that lock?
No, there's no way this week you can clinch the division.
Maybe 2 weeks.
Maybe next week if everything works out. It depends if the Vikings this week lose. If they lose this week, maybe you can clinch it the next week. But you're only a game ahead, and you still play them once. So like if they win,
you need like a couple losses, honestly.
Yeah. I would say if I had to guess anything, and it'll just depend on if the Vikings win or lose this week, which I'm sure they're going to win. They play the Bears, we said. So they'll probably win. I would say week 17 would be that's just me.
And then Derek,
more research.
Derek, last question. He says, Mailbag, do you really on Hutch coming back this season, potentially putting his long-term health in jeopardy or just to help win the big one? I think me and Klotz are kind of in the same boat here. I would say no. Never count him out, but I don't know if I would want him. I don't want to say hurrying, but you know what I mean. Trying to get back just for the Super Bowl, potentially. You know what I mean? You'd want him.
If he's ready to go, I would say okay, but I don't think Dan would ever if he's not fully ready, he would
send him out there.
Yeah. So if he does play, I wouldn't be against it because I know Dan's actually been pretty good over the last few years with there's been guys we've wanted to play like James Houston, we're we need guys.
Reader at the beginning of the year.
DJ Reader, where they're just hey, dude, if this is a long-term thing, you're sitting out. So if he plays, then yeah, I'm fine with it because I know he's good to go.
Hey, appreciate you, Ryan. It says love the show. Good night, everyone. Shout out,
appreciate
Coach as well. Good show, guys. We appreciate you all. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. Doc Wednesday. Be there 8:45. So it's going to be a great show. And we have some guests planned in later in the week. We're trying to work on a Bills writer. So a lot more planned for the week. Check out the rest of our YouTube videos uploaded today. We got 3 up. So if you want to check out some more content, go ahead. Follow us on social media above, and we will catch you guys tomorrow. See ya.
Love you guys.